What's that? What's that? What's that?
Don't be confused with the pictures I send to you. It's Earth, but it's our Earth. But by the time you see this, our Earth will be long gone, replaced by your Earth, horrible Earth. And to you, the future generations, we are deeply sorry about it. So many beautiful things that we have now, and all good things that nature has granted to us that you won't be able to have, to see, you won't be able to touch. Sorry, we have polluted your air for a long time. Sorry for our production and consumption habit bring damage to your earth. Sorry that we can't stop ruining the oceans, the forests, and the soil. Sorry for the carbon dioxide we kept releasing. We see the signs, but we decide to do something else in the name of civilizations. We forget what's good of that if there will be no future. No such thing what to call a civilization. We are sorry for stealing your future. Above all, we are sorry that the whole world can do enough to give you a beautiful and safe planet that you can call home. We failed on our responsibility, but you can still save your future for your children. I give you the seeds, plant them one by one until it clears your air, your atmosphere, restore the climate. Dear children of the future, you can still save the earth. Don't wait, act now. And once again, we are deeply sorry. Do not repeat our mistake.
Airlangga University is one of the most famous universities in Indonesia, located in Surabaya, East Java. One of the most favorite faculty in Airlangga University is Faculty of Veterinary Medicine. Faculty of Veterinary Medicine in Airlangga University is the best of its kind in East Java and reputable in Indonesia. In order to reach its visions expected by the whole civitas academic of Airlangga University, Veterinary Faculty conducted academic education, profession, specialists in veterinary field, and also animal husbandry, based on modern education technology, which are able to spawn alumnus with professional skills and have strong willingness to develop their knowledge. Faculty of Veterinary Medicine keeps on showing its existence, proven by many accreditations from various accrediting agencies, both in educational and laboratory. Faculty Faculty of Veterinary Medicine in Airlangga University always tried to be a pioneer of development in education and research regarding veterinary field and animal husbandry, which is independent and innovative, based in religion morale, ethic, life environment preservation, and animal prosperity by keep orientating in society prosperity. The previously mentioned facts show that Veterinary Faculty of Airlangga University had already become one of the most favorite university in both national and international levels. There are 9 departments in Faculty of Veterinary Medicine in Airlangga University. They are Veterinary Anatomy Department. It provides learning process regarding structures and normal function knowledge, names and layout of body compiler in microscopic and macroscopic stages of domestic animal, along with comparison, beginning with embryonal up to grown form. Veterinary Basic Medicine Department, a department which is facilitating about fundamental knowledge in basic veterinary medicine in support of disease diagnosing before applying further anticipation in health treatment, and also provides basic knowledge in veterinary product development. Animal Husbandry Department. It learns about every aspect of animal husbandry, started from the types of poultry, maintenance system, housekeeping, animal husbandry waste processing, feed formulation and engineering, economical productivity and values, up to utilization and development of probiotic product. Veterinary Microbiology Department provides learning about bacteriology knowledge, mycology, biology and immunology, also microbiologic diagnostic techniques. Veterinary Parasitology Department. The department learns of the kind of parasite characteristic in livestock animals, pets and wild animals, which divided into zoonosis and non-zoonosis covering morphology, species characteristic, wet nurse, predilection, life cycle and infection mechanism observed from economy and health point of views. Also provides comprehension concerning on parasite protein exploration in animals. Veterinary Pathology Department. It educates regarding disease starting from disease causes, pathogenesis, clinical indication and a number of lesion forms microscopically and macroscopically in cells or system which are having lesion, classification and pigmentation, hemodynamic interference, inflammation reaction and recovery mechanism, cells adaptation, development of interference and neoplasia, which are caused by whether infectious or non-infectious agent. Veterinary Reproduction Department. Fundamentally, the materials given by the department concerning on reproduction system, physiologic system, applied reproduction technology to improve reproduction efficiency and preservation, maternity diagnosis and pathology, parturition and its complication, infertility and sterility aspect, also reproduction health treatment. Veterinary Public Health Department. Subjects provided in this department such as public health veterinary, feed secureness warranty system, veterinary legislation, zoonosis, environment health and veterinary epidemiology and economy. Veterinary Clinic Department. This department provides subjects which categorize in veterinary clinic science, covering clinical diagnosis, internal disease science of large animals, general surgery science, experimental animals management, internal disease science of small animals, special surgery science and radiology. Faculty of Veterinary Medicine has various facilities in support of students' academic activities, which are useful for innovative and high-quality basic research activity. Library. Veterinary Examination and Feed Analysis Unit. Frozen Semen Production Unit. Animal Hospital. Besides academic activities, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine students also actively in charge in many academic activity throughout various students' organizations. The lecturers and teaching staff also no less active in some of veterinary department programs.
"今後も一緒に、世界の寄生虫について一緒に研究できたらとても嬉しいです。アイルランガの皆さん、今後も一緒にやっていきましょう。Efkaha Unne Success!
In each achievements, Veterinary Department also had its hands in donating works in form of research development and authorized product. Faculty of Veterinary Medicine in Airlangga University always try to be a pioneer of development in education and research regarding veterinary field and animal husbandry, which is independent and innovative, based in religion morale, ethic, life environment preservation, and animal prosperity by keep orientating in society prosperity.
Fakultas Kedokteran Hewan Universitas Airlangga ke depan, kita ingin menyediakan sarana prasarana pendidikan, mulai dari rumah sakit hewan, teaching farm, teaching hospital, dan lain sebagainya, yang diharapkan banyak memberikan kontribusi positif kepada perkembangan anak bangsa ini untuk menjadikan dokter hewan yang tangguh dan bermanfaat bagi masyarakat Indonesia.
Manusia Mriga Satwa Sewaka, prospering human through animals. Veterinarians have their roles in improving humans' prosperity, from dealing with zoonosis diseases.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Our event is about to begin, so please kindly remain online, and thank you very much for preparing yourself to join our event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to all the participants. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, Professor Dr. Mirni Lamid, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Agriculture, the Honorable Vice Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, Dr. Rimayanti, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Health, Professor Dr. Sri Hidana, Master of Science, Dr. Iwan Sahrial Hamid, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Science, the Honorable our guest lecturer, Professor Dr. Hafez M. Hafez from the Institute of Poultry Disease, Free University of Berlin, the Honorable Professor Dr. Muhammad Fias Kamar from the University of Veterinary and Animal Science, Lahore, Pakistan, and the Honorable for all the lecturers and all the participants of this event. First of all, let us pray and praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala because of His bless and mercy, we can come together without any obstacle here with healthy condition in this event. I'm very pleased to see you here, and it is our pleasure to welcome you to our guest lecture event, proudly organized by Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga. My name is Juliana Puspitasari, Master of Ceremony of today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the event, let me share the agenda of this event. We have several agendas are as follows. The first agenda is opening. The second agenda is opening remark by Chairman Dr. Lili Maslaka, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Health. The third agenda is opening speech from Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, Professor Dr. Mirni Lamid, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Agriculture. The fourth agenda is presentations from the speakers. The first presentation will be delivered by first speaker, Professor Dr. Hafiz M. Hafiz. And the second presentation will be delivered by second speaker, Professor Dr. Muhammad Fias Kamar. The fifth agenda are discussion, resume, and certificate awarding. The sixth agenda is closing remark by first Vice Dean, Dr. Rimayanti, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Science. And the last agenda is closing. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first agenda is opening. Let's start this agenda by praying according to the respective religions and beliefs. Okay, let's pray together first. Pray begins. Pray finish. Thank you very much. So we come to the second agenda. The second agenda is opening remark that will be delivered by Dr. Lili Maslaka, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Health, as a chairman of this event. To Dr. Lili Maslaka, the time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Aan. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Airlangga University, Professor Dr. Mirni Lamid, the Honorable Vice Deans, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Airlangga University, the Honorable our guest lecturer, Professor Dr. Hafiz M. Hafiz, from the Institute of Poultry Disease Free University Berlin, the Honorable Professor Dr. Muhammad Fias Kamar, from the University of Veterinary and Animal Science, Lahore, Pakistan, and our fellow lecturers and students, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Airlangga University, who has participated in this event, the International Case Lecture with the Molecular Diagnostic Approach in Poultry Disease. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let us pray and praise to the Almighty Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us health and opportunities so that we can attend the International Case Lecture today. This event was attended by lecturers and undergraduate, postgraduate student Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Airlangga University, and 10 participants from Pakistan. The number of participants is around 789 participants, and we hope that all the participants can take part in this event until the end of the event. As the committee chairman, representing all of the international case lecture committees, I would like to apologize to all the participants if there are imperfections in implementation of this event. We are very grateful to the speakers who have been willing to give lecture of very interesting topic to all of us at this event. Hopefully, we can continue this communication and collaboration through other events. That we can welcome speech we can give on behalf of the committee. Once again, if there are any imperfection in implementation of this event, we would like to apologize to everyone. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Lili, for the opening remark. So we come to the third agenda, which is opening speech from the Dean of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, Professor Dr. Mirni Lamid, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Agriculture. To Professor Dr. Mirni Lamid, the time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Aan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning for Professor Hafez and Professor Fias. Welcome to International Guest Lecture, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Airlangga University. Thank you very much for your presence. It is very good to see all of you, and let me start by wishing you all a very happy and healthy. First of all, I will introduce myself. I'm a Professor Mirni Lamid Dr. Hewan, DVM, Magister Agriculture, as a Dean, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Airlangga University. I would like to thank all our speakers, Professor Dr. Hafez and Professor Muhammad Fias Omar, to attend become guest our lectures in this event. International guest lecture, I think, is very important to improve our academics members' knowledge, and we can sharing our experience with our guest lecture. I would like to thank all participants who have joined this guest lecture. I hope this event will be success and we can gain our knowledge. I hope we will be able to meet with all speakers and participants in the next event. Again, thank you both of you, Professor Hafez and Professor Fias, and thank you for the committee, Dr. Lili Maslaha, Dr. Suryo, Dr. Aan, Dr. Farid, and all participants. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and good morning.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much to Prof. Mirni for the opening speech. So for the next agenda is the main agenda which we are waiting for, presentations from the speakers. And for the presentation session, we'll be guided by our moderator, Dr. Suryo Kunchoro Jakti, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Veterinary, Doctor of Philosophy. But before we start the presentation sessions, I would like to read briefly about the curriculum vitae of Dr. Suryo. Okay, so Dr. Suryo is one of the lecturer in Veterinary Histology, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga. In 2009, he has received his Doctor of Veterinary Medicine at Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga. And in 2010, he got his Master of Veterinary Science in Vaccinology and Immunotherapeutic at Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, Indonesia. And in 2020, he just graduated and received his doctoral degree, Doctor of Philosophy in Veterinary Science and Technology, Faculty of Veterinary Science, Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand. And for publication, he has published 6 papers Scopus Index and 6 paper international proceedings. Okay, that is the curriculum vitae from Dr. Suryo. And please welcome to Dr. Suryo. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aan, for the introduction. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and good morning for Professor Hafiz and Professor Fias. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Surya Kunchoro Jakti. I will be the moderator for today's lectures. And welcome to today's guest lecture with the theme Molecular Diagnostic Approach in Poultry Disease. Before we get started, I would like to offer a few items so you know how to participate in today's lectures. You have joined the presentation by using your own phone, tablet, or your own computer in attendee default setting. You will not be able to use or to activate the feature of the video and unmute the microphone until we allow you to do so. This setting will just allow you to see and hear the moderators and the lectures from the speakers only. In your Zoom control panel, you will have chat box and Q&A box. For general questions related with this program, please put your question in chat box only. But for questions related with the lectures, please put it on in the Q&A box. You will have the opportunity to submit text question to today's presenters by typing your question again into the question and answers box. You may send in your question at any time during the presentation, and we will collect these and address them at the end of the presentation. Okay. In today's lectures, we have two distinguished speakers. These two speakers are Professor Dr. Hafiz M. Hafiz. He is a head of the Institute of Poultry Disease, the Free Universität Berlin, Germany. And the second one is Professor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Komar. He came from University of Veterinary and Animal Science, Lahore, Pakistan. Okay, without any further ado, let me start to the first lecture. Before that, I would now like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is Professor Dr. Hafiz M. Hafiz. He is the head of the Institute of Poultry Disease of the Free Universität Berlin, Germany. His research area is a disease control in general and foodborne disease, management, animal welfare, and hygiene. He is also actively attending the scientific congress, supervise the doctorate student, and publish so many scientific journals in related fields. And today, he will deliver the topic entitled Review on Current and Future Challenges of the Poultry Production. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Professor Dr. Hafiz M. Hafiz. For Professor Hafiz, time is yours. You have 90 minutes presentation time. Please.
Now what shall I do?
Okay, you can now share your screen, Professor. Yes, we got it already.
Is this okay? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Assalamu alaikum. And good morning, everybody. As you heard, my name is Hafiz Muhammad Hafiz. I'm born in Egypt and live in Germany since 100 years, something like that. Today, I asked to speak about the current challenge faced poultry production. Can we skip that here?
Sorry, Professor.
I got a lot of the pictures of my slide now. Can you make something to take this picture outside for you, from you, and for your other colleagues? Can you see the entire slide or not?
Yes, we can see.
Yeah,
yes.
But okay. Can you put that in other place or something like that? Because in my screen, I have a lot of picture now from you, and then I cannot show the slide very well. You didn't understand me, no?
Yes. Maybe the IT staff, can you help the Professor Hafiz to overcome this problem, please?
To take all the picture here.
Prof. Hafiz, I will share screen. Can you stop your screen, please?
Yes, is this my screen?
Yes, can you stop share screen, Prof. Hafiz? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes, but I have a lot of picture from you and from me here. How we can doing that? Because your picture covers the slide what I'm going to show. Did you understand me?
Yes. Dr. Dandy, could you help Professor Hafiz? Maybe the slide of the Professor Hafiz is covered by another picture, because in his panel maybe he has a lot of panels, so he couldn't see his presentation clearly. Is it like that, Professor Hafiz?
Yeah, I really, sorry, I have the presentation, but I have a picture from me and a picture from other doctors, and I cannot see my slide, my own slide.
Yes,
it is covered by this picture here.
I see.
Oh God. Yeah, now this is okay.
Okay.
It's okay?
Yeah. If you okay
but
with this,
I still have a picture here. What shall I do? Yeah. And even I cannot move the slide.
Yes, you cannot move the slide because we open the slide from here. Maybe you can just start the presentation and we're gonna operate your slide from here.
Yeah, I can read. Yeah, but I okay. This is the next slide. What shall I do? Really, it is terrible. I'm sorry, because I have the slide on my. I asked it before, and I have the slide on my computer by my own self.
I see. Maybe Dr. Farid or Dr. Dandi or Dr. Tahawi can help. Okay, right now we can see your slide.
I will try anyhow. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for invitation, and I'm sorry for all the technical troubles, but we try to go through my slides, and I'm really very happy to be with you, and thank you very much for everybody from your faculty and from your university. As you see, my name is Hafiz Mohammed Hafiz, and I'm from Institute of Poultry Disease in Berlin. And we're going to speak about poultry production. And when we start with the poultry production, we have a breeder flocks. Can you see my
Yes, we can see.
Okay?
Yes,
and we have hatching eggs. Hatching egg go to the hatchery. Then we have chicks, and then we have the birds inside the house. And if you look for the current and the future challenges, we have to think about the food availability, the strong competition, and the increase of feed cost, because play a very important role. We have to look for food safety, consumer expectation, and the legislation in country, and emergence and re-emergence of the new infection. And first we have to speak about food availability. And if we speak about food availability, what is the problem really? The problem is that we have more than 15 million people are food insurance or insecure. They don't have enough food. And the people are living mostly in country affected by conflict. Again, I see here your picture. I cannot see my slide. This is anyhow 60% of the world hungry live in conflict area. And this is a very huge problem. And If we look for the poultry meat production worldwide between 2013-15 and 2020, so now can I make was that way? Anyhow, and you can see that really in North America, Latin America, and South and East Asian, they're going to increase the production of the poultry by 2025 compared to that here. If you look for this area in Middle East and North Africa, the increase between 2013-15 and 2025 will be very, very, very slow, especially also in East Europe and in Central Asia. And if you look for the world most populous nation in 2050, I put here some figure from Indonesia. You are going to increase the production from 2017 to 2050 by a very huge number and go to be in a very good position. Naturally, Indian, they have a good position too, but they have a lot of population compared to Indonesian. And as you see in China, even they are not going to look for the population go to decrease or something like that. The current and the future challenge is that we have a competition. The competition going to between food producing animals and the producing country. What does that mean? Food producing animal. We have chicken, but we have also other animal. Okay, and we expected, compared to 2005 to 2050, by 2050, the poultry industry worldwide going to be increased much more than that of beef or mutton or pork or egg production. Does that mean we have a very high increase in poultry production? And this is by metric ton. And this is a very important thing to know, that the poultry industry going to be in a very good position in the future. If we speak about poultry production, we have 81% of the broiler production, turkey meat 13, 14%, duck just only 3%, and the other is 2%. The duck production may be in Asia as much higher as also in China compared to the other country. And the one important thing, if we look for the number of eggs per billion in the world, Indonesia have in a very good position, and it seems to be in a very good in the future also in layer production and egg production. And in broiler meat production, Thailand going to be in the third position after Brazil, United States, and the European Community. And I don't find any data related to production of broiler or poultry meat in Indonesia. The one important thing that we can see also that God, this is really terrible. That's a poultry production by layer and the broiler going to be increased from 2011 by 2015. You have a lot of the production of broiler increase as well as in layer flocks in Indonesia. We have, I told you the challenge also that the increase of the feed cost. The feed cost to make a huge problem is 60% of the total production, or even 70% of the total production is the cost of the feed. And if you look for the problem related to feed production, we have a water shortage, we have an environmental problem, we have some discussion about gene manipulated soya, for example, and we used also biofuel, and that means by the years, the cost of the production the feed costs go to be increased too much. And we have a huge discussion to stop the GMO soya and GMO food production for the human being. And if we look, we use a lot of mice or something that to produce foil. And if you would like to produce feed, you need an arable land. Otherwise, you cannot produce that. And if you look for the most important country which can produce a lot of feed and a lot of plants is Brazil, and it is a potential arable land. Really, for me, also surprised that in Congo and Africa, they still have a lot of arable land. But if you look in Indians, you don't have any arable land anymore, and that's the problem what we have. And you need a water, and the water sometimes is complicated. And here, yeah, what's that? If you look for the percent of the world water resource and the population is yellow, you can find in Asia, you still have enough of water source compared to the population. If you look for Africa, you don't have enough water. If you look for Europe, we don't have a lot of water also. But North and Central America, as well as South America, they have enough sources of water to produce feed all the time. And if we look again how many water per liter for produce 1 kilogram of the product, we can find that the beef, they need a lot of water, the cotton also, but chicken and eggs production, they don't have a lot of water. Does that mean we have a good chance to produce more in the future? And if you look the water used in your country, in Indonesia, you can find 70% of the water used for agriculture, 11% for domestic, and 19% for the industry. And if the feed cost increase, does that mean it's a financial disaster for the farmer? Because it increases the production cost all the time. Can you follow me? Everything is okay?
Yes, everything is okay, Professor.
And now if we produce a feed what the consumer expected for you, this is the main food safety. Nobody would like to eat and go to be sick. And that's why food safety is a very, very important point for not only for poultry production, but for food production. And the consumer expectation is really look for food availability, food safety. The food should be antibiotic free if it's possible. And if you have more money, you think about animal welfare. But we have a big hazard is the legislation. We do have a lot of legislation in Europe. And the question is, we need more food. Yes, we need more food. In 2011, we have 7 billion people are in the world. In 2050, we expected 9 billion people on the world, and all of them would like to eat. And as I mentioned before, 815 million people are food insecure. 2 billion people are living in country affected with conflict and violence. 60% of the world hungry live in conflict area. And we have a lot of conflicts currently around the world. We have a lot of war, a lot of things which really make a problem for all the people. Here again, that's a hungry map from 2019 around the world. And if you see the red color, is that mean we have a lot of problem with that here. And as I mentioned before, 821 million people, does that mean 1 in 9 of the world population do not get enough to eat. And that's the problem what we have and we have to face. And if you look for half of 113 million actually food insecure people were in 33 African countries. Does that mean here we have a lot of problem in Africa, but 30% in 4 countries in South and Southeast Asia, and 24% in 7 countries in the Middle East, and in Latin America and Caribbean, just only 5%. The food safety or the safe food is a fundamental requirement of all consumer, rich or poor. Everybody will have to eat. It's okay. If you are rich, you can eat much better. If you are poor, you can eat lesser. And if you are very poor, you have to look to find some food. However, food safety is not a discovery of the recent time. It is natural, basic instinct of human survival. And we have in the past what we called food tester for the kings. The kings have some food tester. You have firstly to eat. If they are not died, the king can eat. You might hear about that. And we get really a food tester in 2013. You know, Mr. Barack Obama, he refused to eat before a food tester eat for him a fish meal. The expectation is like a pyramids, as I mentioned. I come from Egypt, and that's why we have an Saqqara pyramids and the step pyramids. The first step is that to eat not immediately health hazard, and not health hazard at long term, and is good for the health. Oh my God. Really, I don't know exactly what's going on here. Oh. So I have some problem here.
Dr. Dandi and Dr. Tahawi, could you help Professor Hafiz?
Yeah, can I get the next slide?
Okay.
No.
Can you see your slide, Professor?
Yes, but I cannot move it.
Yeah, you cannot.
Okay,
because,
now
okay.
okay.
Because we open your slide from here, so you just instruct us to set
Okay.
to go to the next slide. Okay.
Yeah, next slide, please.
So Hafiz, you can use you can.
So next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, something is went wrong. I don't know.
This slide.
Go back, please. Go back, please.
Okay.
No, not forward. Yeah. Okay. No, back, please. I cannot move the slide by my own self here or what? So it's good. Yeah, that I mentioned in developing country, good for health. Next slide, please. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay. And if you have more money, you have to look for the top quality, environmental security, environmental condition, and animal welfare. Next slide, please. Food safety, what's the problem? Next slide, please. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay, now I get it. Oh my God. The consumer opinion, they said not Campylobacter with chicken and turkey, or Salmonella with the chicken and turkey. Okay, shall I stop here? Because you have to follow my advice. I don't know what oh my God.
Go back or
no, to go back. I cannot work with this method. I'm really totally upset. I don't know what shall I doing. So the foodborne disease. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Yeah, but this is quite different slide. The incidence of foodborne infection have increased worldwide. What is the symptoms of the foodborne poisoning? Is an abdominal pain, cramping, tenderness, chill, diarrhea, fever, muscle pain, nausea, and vomiting. Next slide, please. The source of the infection, it is mostly unknown. However, poultry and poultry product have been repeatedly implicated as a major source of the foodborne pathogen in human. Next slide, please. And contaminated food is like a Russian roulette. A lot of people think eat chicken, if you are not diet, you are lucky, and that's the problem what we have. Next slide, please. And a lot of people, as I mentioned, they said not chicken with Campylobacter, we said Campylobacter with the chicken and turkey, or Salmonella with the chicken and turkey. Next slide, please. And a lot of people think also with egg and Salmonella that we have an poultry mafia which sell eggs with a lot of Salmonella inside it. Next slide, please. What is the cause of foodborne illness? I said at least in Europe legislation, but we have a microbial and physical as well as a chemical substance which can make a foodborne illness. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. We have a governmental regulation, a lot of regulation, and this year an European community regulation related to the food safety. You have a many regulation concerning the feed as well as all the food and the food of animal source. Several regulation is changing all the time. Next slide, please. And with this legislation, we have for zoonosis and zoonotic agent to be included in the monitoring. We have in Campylobacter and Salmonella and several other infections. But for us as a poultry people, thinking about Campylobacter uses as well as Salmonellosis. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. If we look for the number of the, now, can I get zurück? Can I get back, please? Slide back, please. Oh, thank you. This is the number of cases of Campylobacter in human being in the community. Compared to the Salmonella, it is very high. Next slide, please. And if you look for the number of the people which get Campylobacter uses, it is 246,000 people, and that is compared to 2012. This increased too much. It's okay. Next slide, please. And if you look at the source of Campylobacter, you can find really the milk from the cows makes 56% of the total Campylobacter uses, but poultry meat make 24% of all Campylobacter in broiler meat. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What is Campylobacter? A lot of people don't think about Campylobacter, but Campylobacter now is slightly more important than Salmonella. Campylobacter infection are now the leading cause of human bacterial gastroenteritis in many developed countries. Next slide, please. And as you see here, if you look for the fresh meat, you can find that the high percent from the fresh meat are positive for Campylobacter. If you look so to the other things here, like I cannot read my own slide and I don't know. Anyhow, the one important thing, it is the fresh meat may play a very important role in the Campylobacter infection in human. Next slide, please. Campylobacter has a characteristic seasonality with a sharp increase of cases in the summer and early autumn. The major sources of the human infection is undercooked poultry meat, unpasteurized milk, and untreated water. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And we test, oh, can I get a slide back? Okay, as you see here, we have a Campylobacter coli and Campylobacter uni, and we can find them in turkey flocks as well as in ducks and in broiler flocks, and that's the problem what we have. Next slide, please. How is the disease transmitted? We said that human is the main source of the spread of the infection. And you have a live poultry market in several countries in Africa and in Asia, and you can see that the people transmitted the birds from one area to the other area. And if you go to the live poultry market with non-infected flocks and you get contact with infected flock, this flock go to be infected or this birds go to be infected. Next slide, please. The major route of Campylobacter contamination of poultry are due to horizontal transmission from the environment. Drinking water play a central role in the spread of the bacteria within the infected flock. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Horizontal transmission. Can we get back? Really, I'm tired. Okay. All the disease transmitted horizontally, all infectious diseases. That means with a direct contact here in red is infected with non-infected birds and indirect with contaminated environment. Next slide, please. Specific flocks that become infected show a rapid rate of intra-house transmission and a high isolation rate from fecal, swab, water, and litter. Campylobacter spread very high. Next slide, please. Drinking water, as I mentioned, play a central role in the spread of the bacteria with an infected flock. Next slide, please. Dirty bill drinker or cups under nibble drinker also serve as a reservoir that readily infected drinking birds. Next slide, please. And we have a biofilm mostly in the drinking water, as you see here, which is that Campylobacter can survive for several of weeks. Next slide, please. There's no any horizontal transmission from one flock to the next via persistence of the house contamination could be observed. Because Campylobacter, if you have a high temperature, they're going to be killed by short times. That's why if you really clean and disinfect into your house, you're going to get by the second flock any horizontal transmission. Next slide, please. What about the vertical transmission? The vertical transmission means that the breeder flock is infected and laying eggs with microorganisms. In Campylobacter, this vertical transmission not play a major role in the spread of Campylobacter. Campylobacter are really isolated from flock younger than 2 weeks of age, as mostly protected by maternal antibody. Next slide, please. That is work from us from 2001. It's a long time. This is a turkey flock, and they look for Campylobacter. And as you see, at the first day, no Campylobacter. At the first week, no Campylobacter. And started to increase with age with a high incidence of Campylobacter. It is just an horizontal transmission and not vertical transmission. Next slide, please. Okay. In commercial poultry processing plant, there are several possibilities for cross-contamination, especially at scalding stage. Next slide, please. Can I get the next slide, please? Birds intend to, can one back, please? One back, please. Okay. The birds intend for, oh my God. Okay, it's good. Birds intend for sale, unfrozen, are scalded at low temperature, 50 degrees centigrade to 57 degrees centigrade to save the appearance and keeping the quality of the product. And next slide, please. This temperature permits pathogenic organisms such as Salmonella and Campylobacter to survive in scalded water and cause contamination of many carcasses. Next slide, please. This is the slaughterhouse. If you go to the slaughterhouse, we have the unloading, and here if you get birds from one flock which are infected, and then shackling and stunting, killing by scalding and plucking. In this area here, you have a lot of contamination with Campylobacter. Evisceration play a very important role. If you take the intestine from the carcasses and maybe go to get some content of the intestine on the carcasses. In chilling area, when a lot of chicken are coming together to chilling, and also again at the end of the packaging, you can contaminate the carcasses with Salmonella as well as with Campylobacter. Next slide, please. And that what we look for that also, and you can see here after scalding and after defeathering and after evisceration, you can find that you have some increase and go to decrease at the end of the day with Campylobacter. Next slide, please. Cleaning and disinfectant in slaughterhouse during and after the processing, showing the high degree of efficacy. Next slide. As you see here, we looked for several points in the slaughterhouse. We do that in 2012, I think, or something like that. During the processing, we can find Campylobacter all the time. After cleaning and disinfecting, no any Campylobacter anymore. And that's why we advise the people at least to slaughter 2 different flocks, we have to cleaning and disinfectant after every flock. Next slide, please. What about Salmonella? Everybody speak about Salmonella, and a lot of people living with Salmonella. Next slide. Genus Salmonella include more than 2,500 serovars or serotypes. Next slide, please. The infection is mostly inapparent. That means you get infected, the birds get infected. Sometimes you don't have any clinical signs, but they are shedding the Salmonella. Next slide, please. We have a vertical transmission by Salmonella. What does that mean? Does that mean you have breeder flocks produce hatching eggs with the Salmonella? If they hatch it, you have some of them are infected, and then after that, the other group are going to be infected horizontally. We know the role of the female and also the role of the male in the transmission of the vertical transmission of Salmonella. Next slide, please. And after the vertical transmission, we have an horizontal transmission by direct contact, infected with non-infected, and indirect due to contaminated equipment. Next slide, please. The shedding is intermittent, even in the feces as well as in eggs. Does that mean they are not shedding every day? You don't know exactly when they're shedding, and that's why you have to be very careful to looking for that. Next slide, please. As this is, you see, if you're going here, you said it is negative, 1 week or 2 weeks later, it is positive, and so on. That's why if you look for Salmonella, you have to test it more than 1 time. Next slide, please. And we said also we have an cross contamination in the kitchen. If you start really to cutting chicken and after that make a salad, it is very complicated, because if the chickens they have a Salmonella, you contaminated the salad with the same knife with Salmonella, and then you have a problem, because chicken going to be cooked and they don't have any problem with the Salmonella. But if you make with the same knife cutting salad, then you have a lot of problem. Next slide, please. And that's why we said, firstly, make a salad, then you can make the chicken, and after that you can cook the chicken and everything will be okay. But a lot of people said, I don't like to get Salmonella in my house. You can tell me what would you like, but you have to produce chicken free from Salmonella. Next slide, please. I told you again, we have a lot of legislation and regulation related to the food safety. Next slide, please. And we have to monitor for zoonosis and zoonotic agent. Next slide, please. And again, I told you we have to look for Salmonella and Campylobacter. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. I believe this is. Next slide, please. Again, next slide, please. So we have a regulation from 2005 in urban community when we get a lot of problem with the Salmonella in human beings, specifically for Salmonella enteritis and Typhimurium. And we have a legislation, a regulation. We target is the reduction of the prevalence of Salmonella serotype. We started in breeding flocks of Gallus to prevent vertical transmission. Next slide, please. In breeder flock, we have to look for Salmonella enteritis, by law, Typhimurium, Hardar, Verscho, and the Infantis. Okay, next slide, please. And we have another regulation in reduction of the prevalence of Salmonella enteritis and Typhimurium in broiler, only enteritis and Typhimurium. Next slide, please. And the same for commercial turkey. Next slide, please. And the aim is to reduce the Salmonella prevalence to 1% of entire flock in countries. Next slide, please. And if we look now for the evaluation of incidence of Salmonella in poultry and in poultry population and the number of reported human cases. That is the human cases. If you have less Salmonella, then you have, if you have less Salmonella in poultry, you have a less Salmonella in human. If you have a higher Salmonella like here, then you have a higher infection in human beings. There is a strong correlation between infection in birds and the human infection. Next slide, please. And the urban community summarized the trend and source of zoonotic and zoonotic agent in 2017. And that's published by 2018. Next slide, please. If you look at the distribution of Salmonella enteritis among food and animal source, we can find in animals, we have a high incidence in layer, that means in eggs, and you can find also in the food and a high incidence. If you look for the broiler, we have high incidence in the food compared to the less incidence in the chicken or the broiler. And the explanation is that to say that really if we have a contamination from the home, then you have a lot of problem related to Salmonella enteritis in poultry meat too. Next slide, please. That I told you we have to look for Salmonella enteritis and the Typhimurium. And can you see here in layer flock, we have less in layer flock, but we have in the food, again at house, we have a huge number of Salmonella Typhimurium, the same also in turkey meat and in food. And the more Salmonella we have in bigs and the big meat. Next slide, please. And we have currently a lot of problem with what we call the monophasic variant of Salmonella Typhimurium. The monophasic is currently make a huge problem in several countries, but we are lucky that really the incidence is still too low in animal like layers and turkey, and we don't find in the food anymore. But in the pigs production, you can find a lot of problem related to monophasic Salmonella Typhimurium. Next slide, please. Salmonella infantis, it is among the top 5. We can find in layer as well as in turkey, but in broiler we have a high incidence of Salmonella infantis. And the Salmonella infantis is mostly coming by vertical transmission from the breeder flock, and we have to look for that too. Next slide, please. Salmonella newport, again we have a problem not in layer flock, not in the broiler a lot, but in turkey and turkey meat, we have a high incidence of that. Next slide, please. All the time we said that a lot of people really have a lot of problem with human being with Campylobacter. But if you look for the number of deaths of a human being due to food unsafety, we have a huge problem really with Salmonella. The people are died from Salmonella and less died from Campylobacter. And this is an important point. We have a high incidence of Campylobacter, but the deaths and the mortality in human being is mostly caused by Salmonella enteritis or Typhimurium in human, and in Campylobacter we have a low mortality. But every 1% mortality in human being is too much, because you eat to survive, not to be sick. And this is what means food safety. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. And if we speak about food safety, and we have to look for the use of antibiotic. And as you see here, in frozen chicken is a pump. Can you eat it? Just the people make a picture with a poultry meat. There's a lot of antibiotics. They take a lot of antibiotic, and we have to combat the drug resistance of antibiotic. Next slide, please. The problem what we get in Europe in 2006, we have a total ban of the all growth-promoting antibiotic except for coccidiostads. Does that mean we are not allowed to use growth promoter in the feed of animal? Next slide, please. And then one example giving you here, the annual antibiotic use for human and the veterinary practice. At the beginning, when we use when we stop to use antimicrobial growth promoter, we have an increase in the number of cases in human being all the time. Does that mean stop use an antimicrobial growth promoter, then we have a higher infection and we get a problem in human being. Next slide, please. Other problem when we stop the antimicrobial growth promoter, we have a reduced performance, body weight and feed conversion rate. We have an rearing husbandry problem. We have a wet litter and high ammonia level. We have an animal welfare problem. We have a lot of problem currently with the food bed dermatitis, and we have other problem, enteric disorder, dysbacteriosis, and high incidence of Clostridium infection in poultry when we stop to use antimicrobial growth promoter. Next slide, please. The question is that there are many situations where we should treat the birds. And if the birds are sick, we have to medicate them. Next slide, please. This is some bacteria which can be involved in a sputter and enteric disorder. And in all these microorganisms, and here for the enteric disease, E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter, Erysipelas, and Clostridium, we have to treat the flock. If you have a problem with a mycoplasma, E. coli or Pasteurella, Montecida or ORT, in all bacterial disease, if you have any bacterial infection, we have to look very carefully and we have to treat the flock. Next slide, please. However, use of and misuse of antimicrobial increase the antimicrobial resistance and decrease the efficacy of the product, and we have a resistant problem. Okay, next slide, please. The basic rule of rational use of therapeutic is that firstly, accurate diagnosis and sensitivity test for antimicrobial to make a resistant test, look for that. You have to use an accurate dose. You have to make an early intervention. Does that mean early intervention? Sometime we don't have a time to make an antimicrobial sensitivity test. You can start it with some antibiotic which you believe it can be function, and take a sample before to treat and make a sensitivity test. If it's okay, then you can use this medicament, otherwise you have to change it. and you have to treat the birds for adequate duration. A lot of people just use 1 or 2 days. It is not quite enough. You have to at least 4 to 5 days. Otherwise, you get a lot of resistant bacteria. And also that should be cost effectiveness of this therapeutic. And we have what we call the withdrawal time. In many countries, like my home country in Egypt, nobody worry about that. If you treated the birds, you have to look with which medicament and what the withdrawal time, and aim to be sure that the poultry and poultry product are free from antibiotic. Otherwise, we have a problem in human being. We have to look for treatment monitoring, and we have to make a corrective action if it is necessary. Does that mean if you use one antibiotic without sensitivity test, not function very well, you can look for other medicament. Next slide, please. I show you a lot of picture about antimicrobial resistance. For example, in Campylobacter in commercial turkey farm, that's what we're doing here. That's in my postgraduate student, and you can see for a lot of Campylobacter which are really resistant to 3 antibiotic or so 4 antibiotic, or even for 5 different antibiotic, and it is really in a very high. If one Campylobacter isolate, Campylobacter jejuni, are going to be resistant to more than 3 or 4 or 5 antibiotic, you can do nothing. That's a complicated thing. Next slide, please. And that is the situation currently in European community. We look for the Salmonella and the resistance of Salmonella, and we can find here for cholesterol. This is what you look for, cholesterol, and you can find here in turkey meat or turkey flocks, they have a high resistant Salmonella strain against cholesterol, and that's here for the broiler. And that means both of them is too high, and we still have a problem with that. Next slide, please. And again, we look for in our laboratory for Salmonella and Enterica ceovara isolated from chicken farm in Egypt. And as you see here, that Salmonella typhimurium are 100% resistant to ampicillin, 100% to Campylobacter, to chloramphenicol, 100% to tetracycline, and for trimobutrin on the sulfamat is only 5%. If we look for Salmonella enteritis, all the tested isolate are highly resistant, again for ampicillin, chloramphenicol, tetracycline, and trimobutrin. And that's in 2017, and isolate are coming from Egypt. Next slide, please. And again, we look for the Salmonella species susceptibility in multi-drug resistant isolated from human in 2018 in European community. And as you see here, this multi-drug resistant is in red color, is some Salmonella species. And if we look for monophasic Salmonella typhimurium, you can find here a highly resistant again. And this is a huge problem. What we have that we have a multi-drug resistant Salmonella in human being in urban community, and we have to look for that very carefully. Next slide, please. And again, for E. coli also, we have the same problem. We have a multi-drug resistant or the drug resistant for cholesterol. In broiler is much higher than in turkey compared to the Salmonella in 2018. Next slide, please. And we look for extended spectrum beta-lactamase for E. coli, and this is from France. And the red is a chicken meat. This is A here, A. And if we look for the chicken meat, you have a high multi-drug ESBL, much high in meat. And if you look for the human, from rectal swab, you have the same like that in the chicken, as that means a human is infected from chicken. If you look for the human blood culture, it is lesser, but here a very good correlation between infection in chicken meat as well as contamination of chicken meat and infection in human being. Next slide, please. And this is a people from Bangladesh, and I do working with them together. And in 2019, and look for Escherichia coli isolated from liver, from live broiler chicken in Bangladesh. And as you see here, that in 2 provinces, look for 200 isolates, and they are 100% resistant for 2 different antibiotics like tetracycline and trimethoprim, and 52% are resistant to 3 different antibiotics, and then for 4 different antibiotics, they have 12 to 15% in 2 different things. This is really a huge problem because they are resistant to more than 1 antibiotic, and all antibiotic what we used, you can find is not really good for the human being as well as for the poultry industry. Next slide, please. And this again from our lab in Germany, we look for Staphylococcus aureus in healthy turkeys. And you can find, again, I don't like to bother you with a lot of things. You can get that from the organization. You can get this paper, and if you need the paper, I can send to you. But you can find the comparison between turkey and the broiler for 2 different antibiotic, 100%. For 3 different, we have 100% in the broiler. For 4 antibiotic, 57% in turkey, and so on. We have even some flocks which are resistant to 2, 4, 6 different antibiotics at the same time. And it is really too much, and we'll make that with DNA microarrays. Next slide, please. And we look also for Enterococcus faecalis and Enterococcus faecium in our laboratory, and it's published in 2015, I think. And you look for the antimicrobial substance. You look for the sensitive is 44%, intermediate 0, but 56% of isolate were really positive for ptilosine, 56 are for erythromycin, 85% for tetracycline, 72% for gentamicin, and 100% for lincomycin. It is too much and too high. Next slide, please. We look also in our lab for the people who worked with them. We look for the human being going to turkey farm, which really infected with Staphylococcus aureus and or RMRC, and we take a nasal swab from the people which going frequently inside the house to take care about the birds, and we can find that really we take from 39 swabs from human being which frequently go inside the house. 19 was positive. Does that mean 48% of them get the infection from turkey house? And the people which go real to the poultry house, we tested 12 people, 3 was positive. This means 25%. And the people which live in the same family and never go inside the poultry house, we tested 8 of them. 1 is positive by 12%. Does that mean the infection of the human being with drug resistant or multi-drug resistant is very often when you go without mask inside the house, you can get the infection. Next slide, please. The expected deaths attributable for antimicrobial resistance, currently we speak about 700 million, and we expected by 2050 then more than 10 million people going to be died due to the antimicrobial resistant strain of the bacteria. Next slide, please. That's again the forecast deaths attributable to antimicrobial resistance in 2050. As you see here, we have a huge problem in all over the world, but in Africa as well as in Asia, going to increase too much, and we have to be very careful about that. Next slide, please. And again here, the occurrence of antimicrobial resistance in the European community, and you can, or cannot read that. You can, it's found in humans, the average at the beginning is by 13, 18 in broiler is no problem. But if you look for, I cannot read it, for 3 different antibiotics are much higher here in poultry compared to human. Next slide, please. Antibiotic and the poultry industry between the past and the future. We said, if not now, when? We have to take action, really, and aim to reduce the use of antibiotic. Next slide, please. We said in generally, therapy without correct diagnosis, without testing for the efficacy, without real indication, and in sub-doses or shorter duration is to avoid and or to refuse. This is a very important message. Next slide, please. The use of antimicrobial should be a complementary to good farm management practice and a properly designed vaccination program. We have to vaccinate also against some bacterial diseases which can reduce the use of antibiotic. Next slide, please. How to make a disease prevention and control. It is a biosecurity, sanitation, cleaning and disinfection, monitoring for diseases and early detection. Next slide, please. What is the biosecurity? High biosecurity and high hygienic standard of poultry farm are key to avoid infectious agent to entering, to persisting, and to spread. Next slide, please. It is very easy to explain that prevent the introduction and to prevent the further spread on the farm. It is very easy to say that, but it's very difficult to apply that. Next slide, please. The other point is that vaccination and in some diseases even eradication. Next slide, please. Factor influence that choice on the application of the vaccine is that the general level of immunity required. It is quite different if you vaccinate only broiler, which live for 40 days or something like that. It is quite different to compare that with the layer flocks, which live more than 1 year, or breeder flocks. And also we have to know the infectious pressure at the farm or regional level. You have to look for the immunostatus of the birds, specifically if they have a high maternal antibody, and use the live vaccine. Sometimes it's not working very well. Vaccination program for the other disease, we have to make a really a good program before to start to vaccinate. Next slide, please. The problem is that once the vaccination is used, it mostly create a false sense of the biosecurity and hygiene. Everybody said, okay, I use a vaccine, I don't need to do anything. This is not good because the vaccine alone is not quite enough to protect the birds. We have to look for the biosecurity and hygiene. Vaccination lead to reduction of the number of outbreaks, but not for eradication. Vaccine does not prevent the infection in vaccinated flock and the vaccine outbreak takes place. We believe if we're vaccinated, then we don't have any problem, but it is a huge problem. I have to look for that. Next slide, please. Development of efficient vaccine against bacterial infection will lead to a reduction of the use of antibiotic and subsequently reduce the development of resistant bacteria. This is a very important point. Next slide, please. The problem what you have with the vaccine was also called the vaccine outbreak. You vaccinated the flock and you still get the disease. What is the cause of the vaccine outbreak? Next slide, please. We have a problem with management, with the birds, with the vaccine, and the infectious pressure. I go on point by point. Next slide, please. If you have, this is picture from my home country, again from Egypt, and you look at the poultry farm, in which everything is open and birds can fly it and so on, and that means it is not a biosecurity. It is really an open house and the birds can infect it. Next slide, please. What about the birds with the vaccine outbreak? Sometimes we have a subclinical infection with other immune suppression disease like Gumboro disease or chicken anemia virus. We have an infection with a field strain shortly before or after vaccination. If you give the vaccine, the birds need a time to produce an antibody. And if you vaccinated today and you get infection next day, that means the vaccine is not functioning. Other main problem which make immune suppression is a mycotoxin in the feed. Mycotoxin in the feed can influence the efficacy of the live vaccine. Next slide, please. The cause of the vaccine or the vaccinal break, we have to look for the quality of the vaccine, the amount of the antigen. What that means is specifically if you're vaccinated against with an inactivated vaccine, you have to look for the amount of the antigen inside the vaccine. And that's a problem what we get when we get in Asia, a lot of problem with avian influenza, because some company produced it is inactivated vaccine, the amount of antigen is very low and not protected the birds enough. We have to look if we have the proper administration. Does that mean inactivated vaccine you have to ingest it every bird and then you have to live vaccine in arboreal storage, or you have to put the vaccine in refrigerator and the electricity are not functioning very well, then you have the dead vaccine or not live vaccine. Improper handling of the vaccine, for example, of Remark disease, we have to put in liquid nitrogen, and you have to look also for virus mutation, and that's the problem what we have with many problem with avian influenza. There's a virus mutated a lot, and we have some mutation in Newcastle disease also and another strain. All infectious bronchitis is a good example. It changed all the time too. Next slide, please. Improper administration is that mean if you make this in drinking water, you have to be sure that the birds firstly look for the drinking water quality. And next slide, please. And if you look for this water quality, if you look for the pipe inside the house and you have a lot of fungal or some other bacteria, you can put a live vaccine, got to be killed within a couple of minutes. Next slide, please. And other problem is that the widespread of use of the vaccine make an immunological pressure on the microorganism and going to change all the time or mutate. This is the main virus mutation. Next slide, please. The virus mutation means reduction of dominant genotype by the vaccine, and the other failed strain become active. Next slide, please. Sometimes we have also an mixed infection, which causes a vaccinal break. Next slide, please. For example, we have a paper, it is published about the interaction between avian influenza subtype H9N2 and the Newcastle disease virus vaccine Lesotho. Next slide, please. That we make that an experimental infection with a colleague in Egypt too, under my supervision. We're making a vaccine Lesotho. We're making a challenge virus Egyptian H9N2, and to give the dose of the 10 to 6 infectious ID 50, and we look for the mortality from day 15 to day 35. Next slide, please. This experimental design, we have a 6 group. We have an infection with H9N2, and we have a vaccination with Lesotho. I look for mortality and the percent of the mortality. And make it very shortly. We vaccinated the first group by day 15 against H9N2, which is inactivated vaccine, and with live Lesotho by day 18. The mortality was 37% in this group. If we use the H9N2 and Lesotho in the same day by day 18, we have 31% mortality. If we use only H9N2 without Lesotho, you have a high mortality. The only one thing is, if you vaccinated the birds firstly against Lesotho by day 18, and the vaccine used H9N2 on day 21, you have a less mortality. by 18%. However, in some cases, if you have only Lesotho, you don't have any mortality. Does that mean the interaction between H9N2 and Lesotho is too high, and have to be very careful about that, because H9N2 is really worldwide distributed currently. Next slide, please. Lesotho vaccination significantly affect H9N2 in broiler chicken regarding clinical signs, mortality rate, lesion, performance, and viral shedding. Next slide, please. And that's again also from Egypt, that's a paper published, as I mentioned before, and then the increase in the pathogenicity of H9N2 avian influenza, especially when infected chicken with vaccinated live vaccine IBV. We speak about Lesotho, and now we speak that we have the same problem when we vaccinated H9N2 and live vaccine of infectious bronchitis virus. Next slide, please. I come to conclusion. I'm sorry to bother you all the time, but anyhow, conclusion. Next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, one back, please. Emergence of new and unforeseen diseases as well as new legislation will remain a serious challenge. The loss of consumer trust and confidence in the poultry quality, or the safety of the poultry meat and the poultry product will remain a major challenge. Next slide, please. The strong global competition and varying in the production cost in different countries and the continent will lead to an increase in the global movement of the poultry and poultry product. We imported a lot of poultry, for example, from Brazil and from other countries. The steady increase in the cost of the feed will accelerate this process, because if you have in one country to have to pay a lot of money for feed cost, you import the end product from other country, and you have a problem, sometimes problem with that. Next slide, please. The global cooperation and world trade required harmonization for existing legislation related to trade, animal disease control, animal nutrition, license of drugs, and license of the vaccines. Next slide, please. And final conclusion, the use of antimicrobial should be a complementary to good farm management practice and properly designed vaccination program. Next slide, please. Of critical importance are the basic and applied research efforts to develop advanced diagnostic tests, provide promising new vaccines and therapeutic. Next slide, please. However, you have to remember that from Albert Stein, he said, problem cannot be solved by the same level of thinking that created them. Next slide, please. And again from Goethe, he said, knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. This is really a very important thing. And finally, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Again, from Albert Einstein, he said, learn from yesterday, live for tomorrow, hope for them, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Next slide, please. I appreciate your questions now. Trust your heart. Next slide. And thank you very much for your attention. I hope you don't get a headache from me, and take it easy. Next slide. And thank you very much to Remark, what you said in Indonesian language. I put that in Indonesian language.
Terima kasih.
I'm so sorry for a lot of trouble what I'm doing for you now, but that's a technical problem. We cannot save it. Thank you very much for your attention. and I appreciate your question, and because I have to move for other appointment. If you can discuss some about it, it's okay. I hope that is okay for you. I'm not sure if that's okay or not.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Hafiz, for your interesting lectures. Very detailed explanation about the poultry industry and the challenges. We also do apologize regarding the technical problems, Professor.
No problem.
No, we
Everything's
know.
okay.
Yes. No, we know that the highest global demand of the meat is came from the poultry based on Professor Hafiz's presentation, but we still face a lot of challenges, and Professor Hafiz already explained how to deal with the challenges. Okay, now we are now going to take a question and answers. As a reminder, again, you can still submit your question through the question and answer box panel on your attendee control panel. Okay, Professor Hafiz, I already got some question from the participant. The first question is from Abdul Rauf. I will read the question for you. Assalamualaikum, Professor Dr. Hafiz. Here, Abdul Rauf from University of Veterinary and Animal Science, Lahore, Pakistan. As you have said in your presentation, there is more zoonosis associated with the broilers, and probably we are going to meet our food production needs in future through broiler production, as you also mentioned in your presentation. So are not we heading toward a major threat to human health? And secondly, is it not going to affect nutritional balance of optimization of diet for world population if we rely so much on this? Thank you.
Yeah, I think if I did understand the question, this is a comment more than a question, really. But
yes,
we have to produce meat for the people. Does that mean the broiler production going to increase all the time in many countries? The problem is that how to improve the management, and really also we have to look for the vertical transmission diseases. We have to look for that. Does that mean the most of the people buy 1 day old broiler, and that's from the breeder flocks. You don't have any idea what's going on in the breeder flocks because we don't have any vertical integration. We have mostly 2 or 3 huge companies have the breeder flocks and sell 1 day old broiler to the people, and that's why we have to increase the attention of the breeder flock to be free from the zoonotic bacteria at least.
Okay, I hope you got a point from the explanation from Professor Hafiz. So let's move to the next question. The next questions came from our students, Camelia Elizabeth. How do we know if the poultry has been contaminated by Salmonella?
It is really, yeah, it is very easy. The problem what we have with the Salmonella, either you have really a disease or you have an infection. You have to differentiate between infection and disease. Disease, that means the birds are died, you make a postmortem, you make a bacteriological examination, and you can find Salmonella, you cannot find any Salmonella. That is mean you have a disease. But we have a lot of carrier. And this carrier are the shedding the microorganism intermittent. Intermittent, does that mean you go today, you take, for example, cloacal swab from a flock, and you can find Salmonella, or you cannot find a Salmonella. And that's why we said in urban community, you have to go firstly to test the flock every couple of weeks with a cloacal swab for Salmonella, and aim to look for the shedding, it is an intermittent or not infected. And in urban community, if we find Salmonella enteriditis or Typhimurium, we have to kill the flock sometime. Or at least to make a heat treatment for the poultry meat. We have to slaughter the positive flock at the end of the day in slaughterhouse, and this meat should be heated or not sold as a fresh meat. but it's going to be very, very, very difficult to apply it in Asia and in Africa. It is very complicated.
Yes, yes, thank you, Professor Hafiz. This is for my own question. You mentioned a lot about the salmonella issue in EU or in Germany. How about the incident rate or the case of the salmonella in Germany? Is it still high there?
No, really in urban community since 2006, we have to see that less than 1% of the entire flock in country should be free from salmonella. Does that mean for specifically for salmonella enteritis and salmonella typhimurium? Okay, not from other salmonella. We speak about really a pathogenic salmonella, and that's why we tested every flock before to move to the slaughterhouse by cloacal swab and a fecal sample and look for that. And if really a flock is positive, and in the same day in the same slaughterhouse 10 flock going to be killed or processed, the positive flock should be slaughtered at the end of the day in aim to be able to clean and disinfect it of the slaughterhouse and to have to cook the meat.
Okay, got it, Professor. Move to the next question. The next question from Adwa Anhaf Umadila Setiawan. Assalamualaikum, Professor Hafiz. Here, Cita Pandita from Airlangga University Veterinary Medicine. Learning from the COVID-19 case, many people have lost their life because they don't have basic knowledge about zoonosis, just like in the beginning of EI, avian influenza. What I know in Indonesia is that avian influenza in poultry has not been completely resolved. However, it has declined considerably and the virus mutates to be low pathogenic in nature. I want to know your opinions whether the avian influenza virus can become one of the biological weapons in the future, and how should we handle this? What should the public at least know about the truth about viruses that can become biological weapons? That's the question.
I didn't watch the question very well, but the one, if we speak about COVID, it is quite a different story because it is an coronavirus. We know that from chicken all the time, and we know that from infectious bronchitis, and the virus mutated all the time. And we know that the vaccine, what we used for 20 years for in the chicken, not function today. And in relation to the avian influenza, and avian influenza is okay. We speak mostly about, we have a huge problem currently with H5N8 in Germany and in Europe. And we get in the past a lot of problem with H5 and in ASEAN, H5N1. And we have a lot of problems with H7 too. And I didn't don't watch the question. I'm not sure, are you vaccinated against avian influenza in Indonesia in chicken?
Maybe she just worry about the possibility of the using of virus as a biological weapon in the future.
No. The vaccine is dead vaccine. This is not a problem really. Yeah, we use inactivated vaccine. And I didn't watch the question from the colleague really. She asked COVID firstly, and then they turned to avian influenza. And avian influenza can infect a human if you worked in poultry house without mask, and you can inhalate the H5 or H7, which is circulated in the house, and you can get infected. And we get a lot of human case deaths in the beginning of the recoming of the avian influenza in 2003, 2004. I don't know. You can ask the lady again. You have to besides the question, and they can answer that.
Okay, maybe Pandita, if you still have any question, you can type it in the queue, and then I can read it for the professor later. So we next to the we move to the next question.
Yeah. Okay.
Right now about the related with the AMR. I have a question regarding how high of an AMR, antimicrobial resistant percentage, found in chicken in a free area in Germany. According to the research that your lab that your lab conducted in 2015, I'm curious as to whether those chickens were being sold prior to the research. If not, what happened to those chickens after the data was announced? Thank you.
You speak about multi-drug resistant bacteria
Yes.
in
Yes.
chicken. Yeah, really, the problem is that we don't know exactly how the resisting is coming. That means that the birds are coming in contact with several antibiotics and going to be infected. Okay, and that's the problem, because the resistant bacteria is coming because we mostly, if we don't use the right antibiotic, don't use long duration to treat the birds. Some companies just put antibiotic for 2 days or something like that, and that means then we have an resistant bacteria, because the resistant try to survive. And one important thing, we are not able to eradicate any bacteria or viruses over the world, not only for the chicken, but also for the human being. The microorganism would like to survive. And if they would like to survive, they change some genetic information in the microorganism in aim to survive. And that's why we have a variant too. Yeah. And that's the main problem.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Yeah, welcome.
Let's move to the next question. This question came from Muhammad Al-Komar. I want to ask about the scope of the poultry industry in the next 10 to 15 years regarding food production, disease contamination, and economical role for the country. And also, can poultry industry help in COVID-19 vaccine? That's all the question from Koma.
Yeah, I started by the last point. I'm absolutely sure we have much better experience than human medicine in production and use of the vaccine. The veterinarian used the vaccine many times. The problem, as I mentioned for you, that we have to speak about what the currently used or go to be licensed vaccine for human being with COVID. We have a live vaccine and inactivated vaccine, and live vaccine seem to be have to keep as a GMO vaccine, it's a gene manipulated vaccine or strain, and have to keep to by -70. And inactivated vaccine, you take the strain, kill them, put it some adjuvant, and become vaccinated. The vaccine maybe it is a very good business for the human vaccine producer around the world. We have, as I mentioned, we not eradicated any diseases until now. We can protect our own self by reduce the contact, as you see, or as everybody mentioned. And I think we have to wait a little bit when is, as I understand, the vaccine is for human being with COVID used in China and then Russian. But now we don't have any really quite good data to understand is the vaccine is function and how is one vaccination is quite enough, or we have to revaccinate it or not. And this is with the COVID, but the vaccine, it is for poultry or animal production, this is a very important support to keep the birds healthy.
And how about the projection of poultry industry in the next 10 until 15 years?
I am absolutely sure that with 2050, we see that the poultry production increase because the population of the people are increased too, and the poultry meat is still much cheaper than to take a buffalo or cows or sheep meat. And this is a very good. We have a lot of knowledge to keep healthy birds in confused houses, and the people in the poultry industry worldwide make a very good business. And that's why the poultry industry go to increase, because at least they require less feed, they live shorter time, and they produce a lot of meat.
Okay, thank you, Professor.
Yeah,
due to the limitation of the time, I think this one is the last question. The last question is from Lailatul Maghfirah, DVM. Assalamualaikum, Professor Hafiz. In your slides, the level of antibiotic resistance in Salmonella species is more higher in the fattening turkey than broiler and laying hens. Why did it happen? And what are the factors that influence?
The one important thing, the broiler live for 42 days, okay? And the turkey for the female living 16 weeks and then to be slaughtered, and male by 21 weeks to be slaughtered, okay? And that is, it's depend firstly what you're doing, just look for cholesterol from the urban community for that in turkey. We know that the turkey have a more problem with antimicrobial resistant in generally because they live longer and they get a disease couple of times and they are treated several times, okay? And in the broiler, is very short and you kill them by 38 to 42 days. I don't know exactly what they're going in Indonesia. When you slaughter the broiler in Indonesia, by which age?
Yes, I think the broiler.
Yeah, by how many days when you slaughter? The age of the birds that slaughter
I'm
in
not
broiler in
pretty
Indonesia.
sure. Maybe around 20.
No.
30. I'm not because I'm not a
38.
poultry
This
guy.
is okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's anyhow. That's if the bird's living longer, that means the turkey living longer, then you get chance to get a more infection and we have a multi-drug resistant. But also this depend on the strain, because if you look for if you test it today, does it mean this is a continuous process? If you want to test it 1 week after, or 3 weeks after, or 1 year after, it's quite different situation, and depend on which flock and well rearing system what you have, and if you have an all in, all out, or multi-age farms, and that's absolutely complicated.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Professor Hafiz, for your explanation and also for your answers. I think we got a lot of knowledge from you, especially from the last question. We just know about the turkey because in Indonesia we don't have that much turkey.
Yeah.
So we just know, we just realize, the turkey is longer, right? For the management. So it makes sense why
from my side,
is higher.
I would like to thank you for the invitation. I'm so sorry for the technical troubles what we get at the beginning. I hope the lecture was okay for you. And if somebody have any question or need to ask for something, you have my email address. You can contact me, and I promise I go to answer. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Give my best regard to all friends, for the student. Good luck for the future. And really, I'm happy to be with you today. And I hope I can come to Indonesian live.
We
can
hope
stay
as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry I have to leave because I have another appointment. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Give my
Professor
best regards for the old friends and old colleagues there. And good luck for the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Professor. Okay. That's all for the first speaker, Professor Dr. Hafiz. Before we continue to the next speaker, let me remind you again, you can still submit your question to the next speaker through the Q&A box. Again, through the Q&A box, not in chat box, okay? And let me continue to the second lecture. Our presenter who will deliver the lecture is Professor Dr. Fias. He came from University of Veterinary and Animal Science, Lahore, Pakistan. And Professor Fias' research interests are pathogenesis, prevention control, and treatment of various poultry in a livestock disease. He also actively produced many international scientific papers and also the international proceeding. And interestingly, he still have a time to do 29 programs of community empowerment. In this lecture, Professor Fias will deliver the topic entitled Molecular Detection Infection Diseases of Poultry for Clinical Diagnosis, Therapy, and Epidemiology Control. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Muhammad Fias Komar. For Professor Fias, the time is yours. You have 90 minutes presentation time. Please.
Right. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Thank you very much from Indonesian guys and Airlangga University, all my respected colleagues, my faculty members, and my students. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praises are for Almighty Allah, and I do believe that I am the best praiser of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I believe that only it is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all the durood salam on Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because the love with the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is only the key to success in this world and thereafter. So let us start. I don't know, the audience and all the panelists may not be, you had a very good lecture from Professor Hafiz, and you may not be tired, so I will try to make it as lively as I could. So you could make it. So is that possible that I share my screen for
Sure, Professor. Sure, you can start to share your screen. Okay. Okay, we got it. We got it. Your PowerPoint now.
Okay. So let me start with this small. As you know that I'm Professor Dr. Muhammad Fias Komar. My life has been expanding into three, paradigms. Three basic things in my life has been. Number one is that I had been in the private sector. Private sector means after my DVM, I went to a private sector, a multinational company. Earlier it was known as Ciba-Geigy. Nowadays it is known as Novartis. So I had been working for Novartis from a salesperson up to a marketing manager. So I understand the real challenges and problems of the poultry industry. So I will try my level best to share all these things which has been appropriate with the industry. Second phase was that I went into the government department. That is, I was serving as a veterinary officer, and in that my job was to diagnose and to treat the birds and to treat the animals. So it was another experience for me that I had been working for that. Then I came into the academia, and from the last 10 years, I am serving as a professor and chairman of pathobiology department. We are dealing with three departments. Number one is microbiology, number two is parasitology, and number three is pathology. So we deal with these three departments, and our focus is to deal with the customers having problems of all kinds of diagnostics. It could be from the poultry, and it could be from the livestock, or it could be from equine, or all these things. So as today we are focusing on the poultry industry, so I will try to concise myself on the poultry industry. Let me take this opportunity that if I see, so there are some similarities in Indonesia and Pakistan's poultry industry. So these similarities could be addressed and could be assembled together. For instance, if I take an overview of poultry industry, so in Pakistan, poultry industry was started in 1963. This was the first commercial poultry that at this time, the poultry production was started as a commercial unit. Otherwise, even today, there are many people who are raising chicken in a home-based level. They raise it, and we call it a rural poultry. So if we take about, so there is a developmental phases of poultry industry. From 1960 to 1970, it was the start of poultry in Pakistan. The second phase was that first was 500 birds and 1,000 birds. And from 1971 to 1975, many commercial breeds from other parts of the world, like Hubbard, Cobb, and some other breeds, they came into Pakistan. Their grandparents and their parents, they came to Pakistan, and we had a breeding stock, and also the grandparents. So third phase was started from 1976 to 1980 and onwards. And in this phase, we had a large commercial farms. They were from 5,000 to 10,000 birds. Nowadays, there is another segment. We have a semi-controlled and controlled automatic houses. We have a capacity of 30,000 to 100,000 birds at a single farm. So we have a big poultry structures in Pakistan at present. If we take the opportunity that what is the status of Pakistan poultry industry, so I will take just 2-3 minutes on it. Our industry is the second. Sometimes we say it is second, but I believe that now it is the Pakistan poultry is the biggest industry of Pakistan. It might be second to textile, but its revenue is 1082 billion rupees, Pak rupees, and it is contributing to 1.5 million people of Pakistan directly or indirectly. So I claim that if we want to avoid or to overcome the poverty, then we have to focus on the poultry. Let us take the poultry. I have said these two figures, 10282 billion rupees is the turnover, 1.5 million people, and there is a growth rate of 10 to 12% per year. So one of our students had a question that how much would be the development. So I expect that we can produce maybe every 10% each year. So in 10 years, I would say that there would be 100% increase in the poultry production. Similarly, we have a 190 billion rupees. You just think another way. In Pakistan, agriculture is the bigger unit, and the livestock, it comes under the agricultural sector. But if we calculate, our livestock sector is almost 60% of the agricultural sector. So if we take all the crops and all these things, because Pakistan is very rich in crops, sugarcane, wheat, and this cotton. So we have a lot of these things, but the revenue is coming more from the poultry sector. So there are 15,000 poultry farms all around, and you can see their ranges from 5,000 to 500,000 birds. 5,000 to 500,000 birds. So we had a good 40 to 50% of meat consumption is produced by our poultry products. Value addition is very small. This is the bottleneck. Value addition means processing of chicken is only 5 to 6%. Annually, we are producing 17,500 million table eggs. And annually, we are producing 13,022 million kilograms of chicken. We have a 6.61 kilograms of meat consumption and 88 eggs annually. This is per capita consumption. Why I'm taking all these things? I'm just describing all these things because of two reasons. Number one reason is that I am the believer that the veterinarian in Pakistan and in Indonesia, they will lead the industry. They will lead the people. If they will take care of the health by taking care of their nutritional needs. If they procure proper food, then human health can be preserved. So by this forum, I would take the advantage and saying that our veterinarians are the custodian of the health of our nations. They are the custodians of the health of our nation. If you produce good quality meat, good quality eggs, so I can bet that human health means human immunity would be better. You might be listening that our Prime Minister is saying that there is 44% malnutrition in Pakistan. There is a malnutrition, and there is a what you call, the people do not grow up to the mark or up to the standard. Their brains and their muscles and their body is not that much structured because of deficiencies. So I believe in it that this deficiency can be recovered, can be produced, can be overcome by the production of healthy meat and healthy chicken. So I do not go into the details, but just for the understanding purpose, these are the units of broilers. Then we have a very good quantity of layers. We have commercial layers. You might be thinking that at one unit, we have 24 lakh layer in one farm. In one farm, it's so big that it can produce chicken, and they supply to the whole city. So we are going to have a better amount of. Similarly, we have a very good controlled poultry feeding system. Our poultry feeding system is equally parallel to the whole world. It is recognized that our production system in poultry feed is at par to any other Brazil or USA or UK or all the other nations which are producing chicken. Our turnover, you see, we have a grandparents, we have a parent stock, we have a broilers. So their numbers are given. We have a layers, we have a parent stock, commercial layers, and the table eggs. So this is just an intro that our poultry. Similarly, we have medicines, a wide range. Almost 100 companies are here in Pakistan, which are involved in local manufacturing, and they are manufacturing almost all kinds of antibiotics, all kinds of dewormers, all kinds of antibiotics, all kinds of probiotics, and all these things. Similarly, we import, I would say, none of the company, or I would say majority of companies, if they exist in the world, they exist in Pakistan. We import almost every part of the world, so we have a huge range of antibiotics, huge range of vaccines, huge range of growth promoters, and everything. So if we move forward, this is the scenario of our human resource and all that. So this I have covered already. Let me take, our contribution is, nowadays it is more than this, not 1.7, it's 2.8, and similarly these all things are there. Let me talk about the academia and poultry industry. You know, we are in public sector university, but our focus is not only to produce students, and you just do not work only for the producing veterinarians. We produce the people who are skilled enough, who would work for the poultry industry, and they will be the problem solver of the industry. So our focus is, we work along with the poultry industry, we take care of their problems, we understand their problems, and then we go through all those problems and we try to solve them in our laboratories. We have reference systems and we have reference degrees. We have in Pakistan, we have another poultry sciences degree, as well as we have a DVM, and other than that, we have a master's and PhD programs. So our task is not only, I'm treating again, we are not only meant for producing students, but we regularly work in collaboration with the poultry industry in different expos, in different research projects, in seminars, and many other things. We work together. sorry. We have a poultry industry BS honors, then we have a doctor of veterinary medicine, then there are some MSc programs in different degrees, MPhil and PhD programs, and our students, they are the key to our success. They are so intelligent that they get their degree from Pakistan and they go to many parts of the world, USA, Germany. From our campus, more than 6 students has been trained, has got their PhD from the Professor Hafiz Institute in Germany. So this is a continuous process. 2 of the students, they are working under my capacity, so they got their degree of PhD from Germany. So let me take another thing. This is very important and might be, you would be thinking, although commercial poultry is raising day by day, but our contribution of rural poultry is really high. You know, this is the poultry, this is contribution is 41.6%. This is not organized. The people, especially in the rural areas and nowadays in some urban areas, they rear backyard poultry. They rear the birds just adjacent to their house. Once there is some space, they rear 4, 5, 10 birds and they get their eggs from it. So they are, you know, sufficient. They can take sufficient eggs from their own. So they do not take the commercial eggs. Similarly, 24.3% is from the meat is from the rural poultry. Why I'm sharing this data? This is really important because some of the policymakers, they focus that our problem is the commercial farming. It is not only the commercial farming. We will have to work on the rural poultry also because they are the companions of the human beings. They live together and they work together and they get meat and eggs together, and they are a very good source of nutrition for their children. If we take the examples of what type of chicken we have, so we have in original, we have an asil. This is the asil is a breed of chicken which is taken from the southern Punjab. Then we have a dual purpose breed known as Sidal. Then we have buff or Pinkerton chicken. This is very beautiful. Let me remind you that our this community, our many peoples are now involved in the breeding of these hens. They are just crossing different hens and they are producing fancy birds. So this business is growing day by day. They are trying to import chicken from other parts of the world and they are just, you know, crossing it, getting fertilization, and they are taking many new breeds and they are just getting, they sell one hen maybe 25,000 rupees. So its cost is very, very high. So in this way, this industry is also, this is a dual purpose breed. Then, you know, this is the broiler and there, I imagine that Indonesia has a very good poultry production system. They have a surplus amount of chicken, surplus amount of birds. So I believe you are well aware with it. So this is black bantam chicken. This is also very common and these breeds are also available. And there is silky hen chickens. This is also present. Let me say that we have another like Misri breed. We have a breed from Egypt, and this is called Misri breed. We have a Fumi chicks. We have from other parts of the world. So they are taking a good part of it. So if we take the weight versus production, so nowadays we are getting almost 34 kg of feed is being consumed to get, our FCR is now getting 3.4. 3.4 means we get 3.4 kg. We use 1 kg of 1 kg of 3.4 kg of feed for the production of 1 kg of weight gain. Similarly, our layers, the capacity to produce 90% of the egg production. If we keep 100 layers, they daily give 90 eggs per day. So we have a good production system. So this is the contribution. We have a large amount of hatcheries, feeding mills, layers and breeders. We have around 500 grandparents and many these things. So I skip, but let me conclude this thing. We have a number of facts that are determined. You know, we have an extreme changes in weather. We have a poor farming and managing practices. There is a rise in mortality rate. There is economical downfall. There is lack of investment, and there is a various outbreaks from time to time. So I'm coming towards our real agenda, that is the infectious diseases are the things which are causing mortality and morbidity to our industry. So if, let me take the privilege that in Pakistan, we have an open demand and supply pricing system. So the day-old chick could be from 10 rupees to 60 rupees, variable from time to time. Similarly, the meat rate of chicken is also variable, ranging from 150 rupees per kg to 300 rupees per kg. So there is a gap. 150 to 300, there is a big gap. Only those people would survive which are production conscious, which have a input-output ratio is good enough. Other people, they will be going into loss and they would be washed off from the industry. So here is the challenge of veterinarians. Veterinarians would be the custodian. They will take care of poultry industry's real value. They will tell that what is the disease, how will you manage, which vaccine should be done at what time, and how can you get better input-output ratio. 2013 was the worst year for poultry sector. And in that, we had almost 30 billion rupees to the industry. And this loss was mainly because of multifactorials. And main was diseases. Because the diseases was not controlled by that time. There was an influx of avian influenza, as well as ND disease, as well as, you know, multifactorial diseases was there. So we had a huge challenge. Let me take the opportunity that what we are interested to do. We have to take care that most important challenge is infectious diseases. If I prioritize, this is the slide for my students. And I would request that please recall this slide and just write it down into your memory that these are the major infectious diseases of poultry, which are causing a serious threat to the industry. I take the advantage. Sometimes I just ask my question that could you please write down in your chat box the viral diseases, bacterial diseases, and other infectious diseases, just for the purpose that they should be alive and they should be in part with me. So I take just a pause, and in the chat box, you just write the disease's name. You can just take the notes from here and just write in your chat box that what are the diseases of poultry. I take just 1 or 2 minutes pause. Okay. I understand you would be writing. I would say it's better that you keep on involved with me. If you have any questions, you can write in the chat box, and I would be, inshallah, addressing those questions at the end of my talk. Okay, let's move forward. Again, I would repeat, viral diseases are a real threat to the poultry industry. And these are the diseases which are given. These are the diseases, they are named in the preference, in the priority. In Pakistan, #1 disease, even we have a good vaccines, but this disease is not even controlled even till today, Newcastle disease. Second is avian influenza, foulpox, infectious bronchitis, infectious laryngotracheitis, infectious bursitis, and Marek's disease. Also, I have skipped out but Gumboro disease. It was very, very common, but nowadays its challenge is little bit low. We had been hydropericardium disease. Its challenge is also low nowadays. Then there are 3 major bacterial diseases: colibacillosis, commonly known as E. coli, salmonellosis, and mycoplasmosis. Mycoplasmosis, sometimes it is known as CRD, chronic respiratory disease. So it is there. And other infectious diseases are Amiria, Amiriasis, coccidiosis, and aspergillosis. Let us go to the hot topic of our area. Let me give you a tip. Students, I would say that this is the crunch of my presentation. For diagnostic reasons, you will have to work on 2 things. #1 thing is that you will have to go for direct diagnosis, and another is you will have to go for indirect diagnosis. Direct diagnosis, to me, it means you will have to identify the pathogen. That what is the antigen? What is the causing agent? Who is the causing agent of that infectious disease? So for that reason, you will have to identify its DNA or RNA of the causing agent by the PCR or other molecular methods. So this is the key. If you ask many questions, so I will answer only these 2, this slide, that either you will have to go for the identification of the pathogen, whatever, it could be a virus, or it could be a bacteria, or it could be a protozoan, or it could be a fungus. So you will have to identify the causative agent, and it must be sequenced, and it must be identified, that it must be confirmed that this is belonging to that genome, and its genome is particular that one. So indirect way is that you detect the antibodies which comes out of that antigen. So in this way, you detect the different serological techniques like AGPT or HI or ELISAs. So these are the 2 techniques. These are the only 2 techniques, I would say, that are involved in the diagnostics. But let me take another challenge. You know, in our sector, laboratory diagnosis is a later phase. First phase is the diagnosis through postmortem. You will have to understand that what poultry is, what are the different visceral organs, what are the different, what is the anatomy of the chicken, what kind of physiology of intestine is, how lungs look like, how is the bursa, how is the spleen, what are those organs. So if you do not know the anatomy and physiology of chicken, you really cannot work on the diagnosis of the diseases. So it is really important that you should go through the skeletal system, muscular system, digestive system, central nervous system, reproductive system of all these birds. If you know well, then you will be able to diagnose. Let me take the privilege. These are the few slides, but I have a manual I will share with you people. And this manual is really workable. You just match it and you will let you know that this disease is related to that. So first is the avian influenza. Avian influenza's major symptom is its wattles and its combs. And there is an accumulation of fluids on it. And you can see that there is a swollen head. Then there are petechial hemorrhages on the foot and shanks. These are the petechial hemorrhages. These are the characteristic signs of avian influenza. Then we have a bleeding ovaries. If you go through the bird, you will find the bleeding ovaries. Similarly, you can find the bleeding gizzard. In the gizzard, you will find the spots. Bleeding of the mucosa of the trachea. This is very common. This is very common. Then there's the bleeding in the muscles of the fat around the heart. If you go through the heart, then you will find that there is a bleeding in the muscles of the heart. Next is the fowl pox. Fowl pox is, you will look like these are the warts. These are the nodules which are present on the comb, face, and on the bottles. So these are the very particular signs of the fowl pox. Then if you go through, then you can feel that the cankers are embedded in the membranes of mouth. You can small mucosa. These are the plugs which are present in the wet form of the fowl pox. Similarly, you can see that the mucosa of the larynx is eroded. You see, this is the, so these are the things which you can go through. Then there is infectious bronchitis. Infectious bronchitis is characterized and it is understood by the difficulty in breathing. There is dyspnea. And there is a marked drop in egg production. If you just see the eggs, their eggs would be of poor quality and the eggs would be short. Its shell would be soft colored. And if it is soft, it means it's infectious bronchitis. So if you see its bronchi or its trachea, you will feel that it is all red. In spite of whitish, it is pinkish or reddish. Then there are swollen and pale kidneys with distended urinary tubes. The urinary tubes, you can see, these are very distended. These are the kidneys, and you can find that these are swollen. And then is the Gamboro. Gamboro, as I said, no doubt it is not very common, but still it is not eradicated, it is existing. So you will find that the bursa fabricius is bleeding and it is enlarged, and bursa fabricius is enlarged. This bursa is sometimes enlarged and sometimes it is reduced to the normal size. So it is variable. Sometimes it is increased, sometimes it is reduced. Similarly, there is a bleeding of the swollen bursa. You can see this typical example. Then there would be a bleeding in the skeletal muscles. The big muscles of the thigh, you can find these hemorrhages. Then we had a Marek's disease. Marek's is a neurological disorder, and there is a paralysis of the hind limbs, and there is a twisted neck, and there is lameness, and there is a brachial plexus. There is a visceral form, in which form there is a diffusion and the enlargement of the liver. Similarly, there is a diffusion of spleen, and this the spleen is extended maybe 3-4 times. Its size increases and it is grayish in discoloration. It's grayish in color. Then it has a cutaneous form. There are nodules inside on the feathers, on the follicles, and you can visualize them. Then there is a nodule formation or nodular lesions, skin lesions you can find. Then there is a Newcastle disease. You know, it's very, very lethal, and it is weakness. And in that case, there is a pink eye and swollen eyelids with abdominal accumulation of fluids. There is a foamy discharge from the respiratory tract, and there is a foamy nasal discharge. And you can see that in the trachea, there is a bleeding in acute form. There is a bleeding in intestines also. And there is a bleeding in the, okay, if I say that in viral disease, most of the time the mortality ranges from 10% to 100%. Sometimes whole flock goes because of Newcastle disease. Okay, let me go to the bacterial diseases. These are the fowl cholera. There is a bluish coloration of wattles, swollen wattles and faces. And cholera is very common in Pakistan. There is a pus formation on the back joints, then pinpoint hemorrhages on the heart. So these are the, then there is infectious coryza. Infectious coryza is because of Haemophilus, and then there is a watery swollen eyes and face, purulent nasal discharge, eyelids are stick together and mucus exudate. Then this is coccidiosis, very common. Every one of you know that there are cecal hemorrhages, and the cecum part is like this. There is a bloody discharge. Intestinal mucosa and the cecum is Emilia tenella is the most common that is causing this disease. Then is the Hetericus and Ascarides. These are also found some parasites which are found in the intestine. So this was just a brief review of the poultry diseases. But if I take it into a complicated form, the diseases is not always simple. They are always complicated. We cannot say that only one disease is hitting. There could be a multifactorial system. Diseases would be complicated by the microbes, by the nutrition, and the environment. This I call that the diseases are not, this is the real challenge for the veterinarians. You would be treating mycoplasma, but there would be an ND also. You are going to treat Gumboro, but there is Clostridial infection. You are going to treat maybe pox, but there are some other bacterial things are also there. So it is really an important issue that you should go for the diagnosis of all those things which are existing. And you will have to prioritize that which disease to prevent first and then what to do next. So you need to understand the protocols of treatment. I do not go with these slides. I just prepared for you for the better understanding, like Marek's disease. It causes 85% of the flock. Gumboro disease, I have already mentioned. Then there is a Newcastle disease, I mentioned. And I said that this is, there are vaccines and all these things. We have a killed vaccines as well as live vaccines. Then chronic respiratory disease, then the mycoplasma, I have earlier mentioned. So I do not go into the details of all these things because Professor Hafiz has also discussed all these things. Let us move on the molecular aspect of the common poultry infections. Because, you can control the diseases only when you are a perfect clinician and diagnostics. If your laboratories are good enough and your laboratories are accurate enough and they can tell the exact picture of the immunity as well as the pathogen, only then you are the better judge. Let me explain how. For example, you produce 100 veterinarians. All these veterinarians would not be good diagnosticians or not clinicians. Only 1 or 2 persons would be there. They have the command of, diagnose. So it is really important that it is not only skill, it is a continuous skill because the things are changing. You have to read all the way. What are those symptoms? The symptoms are changing. The birds are changing. Their lesions are changing, their pattern is changing, their days of incubation, they are also changing. So we will have to go through all these things. So in Pakistan, if I take the advantage that in Pakistan, in every city, big cities, 1 or 2 joint veterinarians are there. And the people rush, they treat maybe 100 to 200 birds daily. They go for postmortem, they take the samples, they send it to the reference labs, they go for the molecular diagnosis, and then the results comes. Then they determine that which vaccine should be done, at what age should be done. So in this way, it is happening. Okay, if I take that, what are the parameters on which we will say that which molecular test is most reliable and what test would be assured. So on that, this is the list. The test should be affordable. The test must be sensitive and specific. Test must be user-friendly. It must be robust and rapid. It must need less equipments, and it should give a deliverable to the end user. Let me explain. Our industry is very, very serious. poultry industry, if you just skip 24 hours, means there is a loss of thousands of birds. So do not take much time that, yes, we have taken samples and the result will come in 4 days. No. You will have to work on those tests which gives you a reliable, specific and sensitive test, and they must come in a robust time. On those bases, these are the tests which are involved for the diagnosis of poultry infection diseases. Number 1 is conventional PCR. Number 2 is RT-PCR. Then is the LAMP. Then is the WGS using NGS technologies. I'm sure that you understand this term. If you do not understand, I will explain in question answer session. So these are the few our publications on the RT-PCR and PCR for the isolation and identification of DNA, and these are the different our projects which has been for the identification and DNA. These all things are in our university. So this is the difference of WGS based NGS technologies, next generation technologies. So these are the few papers you can get help. I was just taking the questions, going through the question. The people were asking that what kind of molecular test could be performed for the avian influenza and for the Newcastle disease and other. So it is very important that you just go through all these techniques. Every disease has a different molecular pattern. There are probes and all these things. So you will have to go through all these things. So, okay. The thing is, we will have to develop a point of care nucleic acid diagnosis below $2 per test. So this is the task, because cost is very, very important. And in it, we are going to develop some specific tests which could be made from the blood, from the sputum, from the stool, from the swabs, and even from the urine. And we will know the quantitative targets, not the qualitative. We could assess that what is the number of those pathogens. So in this way, if we get this target that we should go for $2, less than $2 cost, then we can go for the better industry, better. And the answer is loop mediated isothermal amplification assay. I don't know you are performing with this or not, but I'm sure this is the most important test. This must be used for the poultry industry, and we are going to develop this. We have developed this technique in our section for the amplification of DNA, for the isothermal. Its protocol is very easy. It is easily planable, and you can go through all the literatures. It has only 4 to 6 primers that target 6 or 8 sites of the conserved genes. It can be performed at 60 to 65 degrees centigrades. Its reagents are heat resistant, or its amplification is, you can get maximum number of copies within 30 to 60 minutes. So this is the test which I would recommend that you should use. If you are using, it's really good. If you are not using, I would request that you must use it. So these are all its primers, and these are the forward and reverse primers. This is the cycling of amplification. This is, if you want, we can develop a loop mediated workshop for the students. We have an expert people who are working on the LAMP. So these are the equipments which are used for the LAMP. So these are the different tests on the basis of LAMP, what we detect and what we get. For example, if you want to ask that from avian influenza, what are target species? So we have H3 subtype, hemagglutination gene, and LAMP formats are RT-LAMP. Specimens we will get from cloacal swabs, and detection limit is 0.1 pg, total RNA, and its fluorescent agent, these are the given. loop primers, no, this is the reference. So in this way, all these diseases, Newcastle disease, all these, this is the table of all poultry pathogens, and you can get the help that how can we copy and how can we manipulate and how can we work on it. So these are the tables. I'm not going to read all these. This will be available to you. I will send its copy to the organizers. If you want, they can share to the participants. Okay, Ji. LAMP advancements in four fields. Number one is template preparation, protocols, product detection technologies, and power microfluids and fabrications. So this is another topic we will discuss in some other meeting if it is desired. I'm not going its details. This is the protocol for the technology and for the LAMP detection. I may explain one more thing. In our country, we had a workshop on the problem solving. And that problem solving is, here is the differences between LAMP and PCR. So you can carefully go all these and you will come to know that there are some limitations of LAMP, but overall it is superior than PCR. And there are some future prospects of the LAMP also. These are our publications from our institute, and we have a beginner's guide also for LAMP doing. Okay, let me explain one more thing. How much time do we have, Professor Sorio?
You still have 15 minutes for the presentation. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I will take the privilege in this that what would be the treatment and what would be the vaccination, but I will take maybe 5 minutes on it. We had a workshop in our campus, and the agenda of that was that how these veterinary universities, what is the future of these veterinarians? So we gone through all these workshops and we came with very interesting results. The results was that the veterinarians would be, if they will be vanished, they would be not handy if they do not get two things. Number one thing is they will have to go for the entrepreneurship. You listen, very important. They will have to go for entrepreneurship. The veterinarians are meant for the entrepreneurial things. If they do not adopt the entrepreneurship, their future is not bright enough. And number two is, if they do not adopt the gadgets, if they do not adopt the latest technologies, gadgets, then their future is also dark. So because these two things are very, very important, I'm emphasizing again. Number one is the entrepreneurship. I mean, using your skills into an entrepreneurship. You should hire people. You should not prepare yourself to serve as an employee. You should hire employees. This is number one. And number two is that you should go for the using latest technologies. I will share one of the example of that technology with you. If you give me, let me explain how can you use what kinds of technologies. You know, this thermometer is also a technology. PCR is also a technology. This detection ELISA kits, they are also technology. But we have to work on those technologies which are meant for delivery system. So there is a website, and if you want, you can go through and you can work on it. This is the name of that website, animalnexus.com.pk. And this website is meant for 3 areas. Number one is, this is a friendly website. If there is a human being or a farmer, he is looking for a doctor, so he can find a doctor from here. He will say that I need a doctor. So it's just like an Uber and Cream model. you are searching for a vehicle and the vehicle comes to you. Similarly, if you are looking for a veterinary doctor, the veterinary doctors through this app would be coming to you. And number one. Number two, this doctor would be giving you a prescription. And this prescription would be all the products, all the vaccines, all the feed grade items, they are given on it, and the farmer and the doctor would be giving a digital prescription. This digital prescription would be coming from the prescriber, I mean from the doctor to the farmer, and it's through this app. This is the app, and through this app, let me show you. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So on your Play Store, you just go on your Android app, Android's mobile phone. You just write Animal Nexus. You just write Animal Nexus. If you write Animal Nexus, you will find these two apps. Number one, this app is meant for the farmers, and this is for the administrators. I mean, if you are a veterinarian, you will have to go for this app. If you are a farmer, you will have to work for the first app. So if I give you an example, this is the app, you just install it, and once you open, so you will find there is a option of find a doctor. You just click find a doctor, you will see that there is a list of things on it. If you are looking for a broiler, if you are a broiler farmer, you will find a variety of doctors which are available in your area. And if you click with that doctor, so you will book an appointment. You just say that I am suffering from NDV, Newcastle disease. So if you send a request, your request will be gone. Now this appointment has gone to that doctor. So doctor will come to you and he will say, okay, I'm going to come to your farm or to your clinic. And then what will he do? What will he do? He will go for a prescription. For the prescription, you will have to go for another application. I mean, now you are a farmer, you are a veterinarian, and this second app you will use. And if you open with it, you will see that this is the data which is available. You will be getting an appointment from that farmer, and here is the appointments. Here is the appointments. In the appointments, you will find that you have got an appointment from that vet. So you can give the prescription over here. You see, you can select a range of products from the given area, and you can. Are you understanding me what I'm saying? So in this way, you can select whatever product you need and whatever vaccine you need or whatever feed you need. So in this way, this prescription would be going to the farmer's app. And if farmer wants, he or she can buy online. This product would be delivered to him or her at his given place because it is taking its location also. So I would say because of this workshop, this would be a very, very handy tool for your students to serve to the community. If your students are interested, they can, this is free of charge. It's not costing anything. So just download it from the Android app and you can register yourself and you can give the services. I would request that this is such a big tool that your veterinary faculty can engage all the community within Indonesia or even Pakistan also, or some other parts of the world also. So you can give very prescriptions and diagnostics and all that. And to it, there is a Facebook page. Sorry, there is bit delay in the net system. It's not opening quickly. So a page name is Animal Nexus, and you can go through, you can search its videos and you can interact. Similarly, this is my video. I just gave a clip. I am Professor Dr. Muhammad Fayyaz Kamar, Chairman, Microbiology, College of Veterinary and Animal Science. I am here to introduce an application known as Animal Nexus app that is available on Google Play Store. What this app is all about, let me introduce. This is the app that is going to digitally connect all the stakeholders of our industry. These could be the farmers, these could be the dealers, these could be the veterinarians, these could be the farmers. This is the platform in which on a phone, you can get everything, whatever you need. You can get education, you can get medicine, you can get equipment, you can get all the sales and purchases of all types of animals. So Animal Access is a platform where human love and animal compassionate meet. Keep in touch, stay tuned. For more information, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. So, similarly, one more thing that is really important, and I want to share with that, and that is, this is the area in which we are working. We will have to work not only for the poultry. We will have to work on the community. We will have to work on the concept of One Health. One Health is, this is the environment, human and medical people. They should work in collaboration. Only then, because AMR issue, zoonotic diseases, food deficiency, all these things could only be treated, could only be addressed, could only be given high rank if you work in collaboration. Let me give you an example. If we take the example of dengue or take the example of corona or anything, if you take the example of corona, do you think that only the medical people would be able to treat it? I would say no, because the politicians, the international agencies, WHO, veterinarians, environmental biologists, what they are saying, mask your mouth, use mask, use hand sanitizers. So these things, who is going to do? These are you and me people. So we will have to work on a collaboration. We will have to work on the research. We will have to work on the things which are going to control the diseases, not treat the diseases. So prevention is always better than the cure. Similarly, treatment is not better, vaccination is better. Go for the vaccination schedules of the poultry industry, and these are the different vaccines which are available. If you want, I can share the vaccine schedule for broiler, for breeders, for the layers. They are not given in this, but I can share all those things with you people. So here are some recommendations. I would say special grants and interest-free loans should be given to the poultry farmers, and these research should be given to the faculty people. They must go for the identification of the problems. And if they identify the problem of local problems, only then we can address them. Similarly, import duties should be imposed on the feed additives, pharmaceutical products and equipments. In Pakistan, poultry industry is presently at decline, so there must be some relief. So electricity tariff should be given. So thank you very much. This is all from my side. I would say thank you to the organizers and to the students, to the faculty, that you have given me chance and you listened me very empathetically. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Fias, for your very nice lectures. I think all of us get a lot of inspiration from you, especially about that application. Maybe some of our students or maybe our staff just know about that application. Thank you very much for sharing with us. So the note that we can took from Professor Fias, we already learned about the brief overview poultry industry in the Pakistan, and also the gap in the poultry industry, and also the role of the veterinarians. And he also taught us about the principal diagnostic in the poultry disease, and also the molecular aspect diagnosis of common poultry infections. Thank you very much for your nice presentation, Professor Fias. Okay, we are now going to take a question and answers. As a reminder again, you can still submit your question in the question and answer box on your attendee control panel. Okay, we already have a question. The first question came from Professor Tita. The question is there any campaign in Pakistan to keep the chicken by free range or scavenging system in accordance with animal welfare issue? That's the question from Professor Tita. Please.
Yes, that's a very good question. And the question is, there are many misinformations, or I would say many things which are coming for the poultry or chicken. Sometimes the veterinarians, the medical people, they say that you do not use broiler because this is a full from disease. And sometimes they say that if you do not use this, then there would be some allergies and all these things. And so there are some confusions and all that. But our concern is our poultry industry. We are really proactive, and we are working with the medical people. We have given them some demonstrations also. We have gone through some experimentations also. Those experiments, they have told, yes, there are some pitfalls also. There are some pitfalls, like if we keep on giving high doses of antibiotics and just slaughter when the bird is just full of antibiotics or it is diseased. So this concept we are going to try to launch in Pakistan, that there must be some withdrawal period. So birds should not be slaughtered 4 to 5 or maybe 10 days of their getting, because there must be a withdrawal time. So we are trying with that, but at the present, there are some confusions. Some people are saying that do not use it, but we have a very good consumption, so people use it. I think I have rightly addressed, but if there is some other part, let me know.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Fias, for your response. Another question is from Dr. Sukmanadi. The question is, based on your experience, did you ever use like a herb or herbal medicine to treat the poultry disease based on your experience?
Yeah, thank you. This is a very important aspect, but I will clarify. Herbal medicines, they are not going for the diagnosis of diseases. Herbal medicines, they are basically the treatment or prevention of some diseases. I have not heard anywhere that herbal medicines are used to diagnose some disease. So we do not diagnose the diseases by the herbs, rather we therapy or we treat and we use different herbs for the different diseases. For example, different types of herbs we have prepared and we have made them there. We have a very good potent liver tonics. We have a very good expectorants. these expectorants and liver tonics, they are very good effective, even more than the allopathic medicines. They are even good for the treatment of respiratory tract infections as well as liver tract infections. So many now our industry, 2-3 pharmaceuticals, they are only natural based. I mean, they are manufacturing only the product from the herbs. If you are interested, I can share all those their details, that what type of those, what are the materials they are using, and what kind of dosage they use, and how do they work on that. So if Dr. Sukhmandi is interested, so I can share all the details of all those herbal medicines which are present in Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Professor, for your kindly response. For sure, maybe Dr. Sukmanadi will contact you very soon.
Sure.
Okay, for the next question is from Amir Sesat. The question is, how much time is required for the test? I think maybe the test regarding with the lamb, I think, loop mediated isothermal, I think this one. How much the time?
It's variable, but it would be, we are trying to give the result within 12 hours. We are trying to give the results within 12 hours, but on an average, it is 24 hours. Within 24 hours, we complete the test and we give the results. And it is very specific and sensitive also.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fias. Related with the lamb. According to your slide, lamb test is better than PCR. Why lamb not used in COVID-19 diagnosis? Okay, please.
Again, lamb is in a primitive phase. It is not very common to all the parts of the world. It is not like PCR or some other ELISA or other techniques. So because it is in a primitive phase, so many people, I don't know how many of you are working on lamb in Indonesia, but in general, I believe that this is a bit latest technique. So that is the probable reason that we are not using that much. But let me assure that we are working on the avian influenza for the PCR, as well as we are trying to develop a protocol for the avian influenza through lamb. But we have not established it yet. But let me explain that in Pakistan, we have established laboratories which are manufacturing avian influenza vaccines. We have 2-3 vaccines available in Pakistan, and those vaccines are pretty good and they are at par to the international standards. So we had all the avian influenza developed labs. If somebody is interested to get training on it, or he wants to more knowledge about the avian influenza, so I can get it contacted to those laboratories who are really working on it. I must explain one thing. I'm not the expert of everything. So I would simply say sorry if I do not give the most appropriate answer to any question. But the avian influenza people, they are really good in Pakistan. If you want, I can collaborate with them.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fias. Yeah, maybe right now we're gonna start to make a collaboration. Maybe this event can start everything from now on. Okay, for the next question is from this one is from Anonymous. How we analyze the homology and sequence of EI viruses H9, H5, H9 through PCR and LAMP?
Again, I would not respond it in an explained way. I would say it's better that I will share the its sequence and all those things which are available in the diagnostics in Pakistan. So it is better that I will give you a document, or I will give you something solid, because otherwise we cannot debate on it that what kind of diagnostics we are using. So we are using all these molecular techniques, but I will share its sequence and its primers and all those things with you people. If somebody is interested, we will share later on.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fias. And this is from my own question, actually, regarding with the lamb. Is there any commercial lamb diagnostic kit in Pakistan available yet now?
Not yet. It is not from Pakistan. It was originated probably from Japan. And its kits are available. We have purchased from, I have shown its equipments. Its equipments and reagents, they are available with our laboratory, but they are not our own. We are just doing our experiments on it. So if you want, we can, I can give you the details of all those equipments and all those reagents and all the protocols, how does it works, so we can work on it in a collaboration.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Dr. Fias. Actually, LEM is a kind of molecular technique that make everything more simple, because they just use isothermal, just use one temperature, and no need use a thermocycle. We just use maybe just heat block, right? So it will be very easy in the field. Because I know some of my colleagues from she's Indonesian and she work with LEM as well, but I'm not sure. I'm not pretty sure that she will develop, because right now she is in the like a private company, something like that. I hope it will be available like a LEM test kit from Indonesia. I hope it will be available, but not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, for the next question is, here is some question related to molecular diagnostic of EI virus. How we diagnose and sequence the EI virus in the blood and swab sample through PCR. How and why we focus on M gene in AE5 diagnosis. How we differentiate between strain and clades. How we synthesize the primer. AE virus strain and clade is same in Pakistan and Indonesia. A lot of questions. So many questions.
All these questions would be answered. This is the agenda of our next workshop. If you want to have a workshop on molecular tests, then we can arrange all that and we can just perform all those tests on your screen, and our students, our faculty, they are really equipped with it, and all those primers would be done, all that. We are already doing this work. On 14th of this December, we had a workshop on Thalaria and Babesia. This is an online workshop, and in it we are working all these questions which somebody is asking to me. So these questions, I cannot, there are few questions to answer. To answer is some, words. But there are some questions, their answer is not words. You will have to give them some skills or some experiments. So all these questions needs again more workshop, and if you want, we can work, we can arrange, and we can collaborate.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fias. So it means that this workshop, it will be possible. We can do it by online, right?
Sure.
Okay, related the coming workshop on the 14th December, if I'm not mistaken, could you share your information? Let me help you to share this information to our student or our colleagues. Maybe someone will need that workshop. Maybe you can just send an email to the committee. Thank you, Professor Fias.
No problem.
Okay, for the next question, everything related with the PCR. What is the most specific primer and target gene used for testing salmonellosis in conventional PCR?
Yes, its answer is, again, I would share its primer. and it's I will share the primer. I will email this primer to you. That is more specific, and it's because I cannot explain in words. It has some specific characteristics, and share. I will email that primer.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Fias. And another question from Amir. How respected Prof, you will suggest about combination of nutraceutical and pharmaceutical. I mean, combinedly, we can use both in one disease?
Yes, this is an interesting question. And I would say yes. The answer is yes, because as I said earlier, that in poultry, the disease is not only one. There is a complex of diseases. And complex diseases needs complex remedy. For instance, if you are going to treat Newcastle disease, there must be some E. coli also. So you have to use for Newcastle disease, you will have to go for the increase in the immunity, and you will use some antibodies or some probiotics that are immunity boosters. And at the same time, you would be using some nutraceuticals. Some nutraceuticals, they also enhance or they also repair the vital organs, maybe spleen, liver, kidney, and all those things. But at the same time, if you want to treat the E. coli, yes, you will have to use the antibiotics. So my answer is yes, you can use in combination. And there are many diseases in which there are multifactorial combinations or multifactorial therapies, both herbal as well as allopathic, or even sometimes allopathic, and sometimes homeopathic. Sometimes homeopathic, they are also used in combination. So they can be used, no problem at all.
Okay, and another question from Amir. I think it's just a continue. Is there any issue with withdrawal period by using both?
Yes, issue is again, it is not for the nutraceuticals. It is for the antibiotics. So antibiotics withdrawal period is there and it must be followed. It is different for different antibiotics and it is always given on the product which you use. So that must be followed. But for the nutraceuticals, it is not there. If you use it in recommended dosage, there is no withdrawal period.
Okay, Professor Fias. This is there
is some comment from some attendee, and probably he is right that leave it, professor can't explain it. I am of the view that you are right. I am unable to explain the those things which should be given in a document form. So I apologize for that. I could not explain.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fias. And another question is from my own question related with the antimicrobial growth promoter. Because right now, currently, we have an issue that many countries already banned for using the antimicrobial growth promoter. How about this situation or this issue in Pakistan, Professor?
This is very relevant question. And almost we are at the same platform as you are. Many growth promoters, they are banned in many other countries, and also same is true in Pakistan. But I don't know, in Pakistan, there are some growth promoters which are banned, but even the farmers use it from some black way. They are available, but not registered or not available in a commercial way, but they are available sometimes, like chloramphenicol or like furazolidone or like other growth promoters. So they are also banned, and I believe they must be banned. So, but the status is more or less the people are using because at the farm level, the farmer can import it, but not the industry people cannot import it. So in Pakistan, not in common, but I would say 5 to 10% of the people would be using it. And in general, it is banned.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Fias. I think there is no more comment or no more question. So let me close this session. But before I close this session, so from today's lecture, let me try to recapitulate the messages from our two distinguished speakers. From the first speaker, Professor Hafiz, we note that the consumer's expectation for high standard of quality of poultry product will strongly influence the production method. This leads the farmers, veterinarians, stakeholders, and other partners are involved in the production chain should share more responsibility as well and intensify the cooperation. And from Professor Fia's lectures, we can take a note a lot regarding the basic principle diagnostic for poultry diseases, molecular aspect diagnostic in poultry disease. But the challenge is in molecular diagnostic, not many veterinarians capable to do it. And another thing is related with the cost. So the cost for the molecular diagnostic, it should be reachable. And based on the Professor Fia's presentation, we learned about the LAMP. The LAMP technique is likely can be over to face that challenge to make molecular diagnostic base is more reachable for the farmer or in the field. I think that's all from today's lectures. So again, thank you to Professor Hafiz and Professor Fias, and also everyone for attending today's case lecture. Before I end this session, on behalf of Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga, I would like to hand over the certificate of appreciation to our distinguished speaker virtually. Our first certificate will be handed to Professor Dr. Hafiz M. Hafiz from the Freie Universität Berlin, Germany. And for the second certificate is handed to Professor Dr. Muhammad Fias Komar from the University of Veterinary and Animal Science, Lahore, Pakistan. And again, I would like to thank to our speaker and for the participants. Thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. I would like to hand over back my duty to the MC. Thank you. Good afternoon and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much to Dr. Suryo for guiding this session. And thank you very much for the speakers for informative and insightful presentations. And we come to the next agenda. For the next agenda is closing remark from First Vice Dean, Dr. Rimayanti, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, Master of Health. So Dr. Rimayanti, the time is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Juliana. Yes, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Rimayanti, as Vice Dean of Academic Student and Alumni Affairs, Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga. I would like to thank our speakers today, Professor Dr. Muhammad Hafiz and Professor Muhammad Fias Komar for enlightening and interesting lectures. All of us have obtained a great knowledge and discussion. We have learned a lot from the lecture session delivered by amazing lecturers who have shared their interesting experience. On behalf of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine, Universitas Airlangga and also the committee. Thank you for delivering such important materials so that all of us can deepen our knowledge. We really appreciate that. I would like to thank all participants who have joined this guest lecture. I hope it can gain our knowledge about molecular diagnostic approach in poultry disease. And finally, I would like to thank all the committee members for organizing this event and ensuring that it proceeds and running smoothly. I hope we will be able to meet the all speaker and participant in the next event. Thank you very much. Good afternoon and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Rima, for the closing remark. Finally, we get to the last session in this event, that is closing. On behalf of the committee, we would like to thanks to all the speakers for the informative and interesting presentations, and also for all the participants for the participations. May that we have conducted today will be useful for all of us. Once again, if there are any imperfections during the implementations of this event, we would like to apologize to everyone. Let's close this event by saying Hamdalah, Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.